What is up? Good morning, everybody. It is wonderful to see you. Happy Friday, wherever in the world you may be. Tariff madness continues as China hits us back. We're now up to 125, I believe, Drew. We've got them at 145. Shit is about to get real. It's crazy out here in these economic streets, Drew.
Economic streets.
This is unprecedented, certainly in my life. But I do often wonder how much of this is brought on by velocity and volume of information. We just have a level of awareness of what's happening. It's like every conversation everywhere all at once is broadcast live, streaming to you, coming into your home. It causes a knock-on effect. It's really interesting. And watching Trump do all these negotiations live, do you see the cabinet meeting that they were broadcasting? We're the most transparent administration ever. I think that's true. It's really fascinating. Yesterday, though, for some reason, I got like the sudden image of what we actually look like on an international stage. It's a little too WWE for my take.
I was just thinking, it's giving reality TV. Like it's feeling.
What a shock! You elect a former reality TV star, and you get reality TV government.
It's the most. We're seeing that in the chat, right? Eric is on that. Copy.
Yeah.
What are we seeing? We got an
echo. We got echo on the mic. Sorry,
Thanks
guys.
for letting us know, guys.
It's Friday. Thank you for the heads up.
Psycho Candy is not impressed. Not impressed.
Yeah, it's
Weird. What the tech side? What could be going on?
Sometimes the electronics have
The
a case
echo
of
is
the Fridays.
wild.
Sorry, the button was pressed when we were trying to route the headphones.
Check 1 2. How you guys
Got
hear
it.
it? How we sounding now, guys? Fixed?
Let's make sure. Thank you, Ramstein. Let's make sure that we have a check before we go live, gentlemen.
Got it.
That's
Yay.
the after we go live.
Applause
check.
for the chat. We did it. We did it, guys. We made it.
Check.
We made it.
Okay, so
We made it.
yes, reality TV. It is very interesting. We are living in a moment right now that is utterly fascinating. Getting to watch all the debates live. All of us having the deepest level of programming, and I mean that from like a TV programming thing, are your algorithms. And so it's utterly fascinating. Like, this is going to feel old school for the young kids that we have in chat, but how we all have like a programming agent for our quote unquote entertainment, our news, and it's these algos. And I would be shocked to see what your programming looks like. You would be shocked to see mine. It's fascinating how different this stuff all is. But once you get in like that group, you begin to know who the players are, where the drama's happening. And there is something really interesting about that. Like when something really goes viral and you can feel that this is capturing the zeitgeist, it's pretty interesting.
I think it's a catch-22 because on one side, you can feel the connection to the community. You can see when something, like you said, go viral. You can feel the cultural energy. But on the other side, you are in an echo chamber. So a lot of times you feel that reverberation because you're bouncing around with all the other people in that same kind of span.
Do you worry that you're not getting the breadth of information that you need? Is that when you say echo chamber, I always think you're just hearing the same arguments back to you. Which for sure is a real phenomenon and is a real problem, but is distinct from at least what was in my head.
Yeah, and I was thinking more so isolation of information. So it's not that you don't get the full breadth, because some people don't really care about the other side, to be quite frank. But I think there is a negative externality of only listening to a certain sect of people in a certain group that you do miss out on information, whether it's information you care about or not. That's to the individual person.
Make me feel the way I want to feel. That is the human condition. And so people are going to listen to who makes them feel the way they want to feel. All right. So we've got tariff madness to contend with. We've got, did you hear about the voting issue, the Safety Act?
Yeah.
That was, I have mixed feelings about that. I was listening to our boy Asmongold talk about that. That'll be something I think we want to touch on today. He was basically saying, you guys know my whole shtick on dumb voters. And he was like, we want to disenfranchise as many dumb voters as possible. I was like, wow, Well, at least he is somebody who is not afraid to say what he thinks. God bless him for it.
True.
Going all the way to passports and birth certificates, though, seems a bit exag, as my wife would say.
You just have the bill itself is an amendment to the 1993 Voter Registration Act, and it's to require proof of U.S. citizenship to register an individual to vote in elections. The problem historically with having tests at voting booths is certain groups of people were using
tests?
Like ways to check, because there was a citizen
that you're actually able to vote.
Yeah, there was once a citizen check, then there was a literacy test. There was all these things that was done in the 60s, and then that's when the civil rights movement came. Those fell away. So now when we do anything to kind of check the eligibility of voters, I think some people still have PTSD from the past ways that those systems were manipulated. I do think it's crazy, though, that you don't need to show like a driver's license to vote. Like, I don't think that's controversial. And I think
it's very controversial, which is crazy.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that I think it's at this point in 2025, it makes sense to, hey, this is my driver's license. Hey, this is my ID. This is my social security number. This is my bill. Like, there's something you can show that, like, okay, you live here and this is your municipality and something like that. If I want to get an electric bill, I need to show a lease or something like that. So I feel like I shouldn't have more checks and balances to get a bill than I do to vote for the
I agree.
Head of the free world.
This seems crazy to me, but nonetheless, this is a hot topic that people are debating fiercely. Now, I don't know if people only debate it because they are on a team and my team is supposed to go this way, or if they actually have thought through it and they're like, no, I think it's crazy. You should let anybody be able to vote. Also loading up the thought about, if you believe that the Democratic Party is trying to turn America into a one-party state and they want to import illegal aliens, and they believe that they're going to have a larger propensity of voting Democrat, if you believe in that, then it's like, depending on whether you believe it's happening and like it, or you believe it's happening and don't like it, I think is where the schism really is born, that people feel pretty ferociously in one direction or the other. But I'm always surprised that people run a mental model of the world that says, I actually can predict all of the second and third order consequences of my own decisions, and therefore I don't want to be checked. I don't understand that impulse. Like, I don't understand how life has taught people that.
What do you mean by that? Can you say that in another way?
Okay, so I was talking about a potential investment. We were talking about this before. The guy wants me to get involved in the volumetric technology. And I was telling my wife about it, and she was like, before you move on anything, I would want to talk about it. And I was like, obviously, I want friction in those moments where I'm like, I've thought about this, I want to move on it. Then I'm like, I want as much smoke as I can get. I want to talk to people who are going to be like, that's the dumbest fucking idea in the universe. Here's why you should never do that. Because then I'm like, okay, now I can see this object that I call the truth, which is I'm trying to predict if I get involved in whatever this thing is. If I make this decision, believe this thing, that I can understand how to predict the outcome of all those actions. And the likelihood that I have mapped all the ramifications of any decision accurately border on zero. And so the only way that you can increase the odds that you are seeing what I call the truth, and I don't know if we need to spend time on that or not, because I've talked about it before, but the thing that I call the truth, my understanding of getting involved in a thing, believing a thing, how that will reverberate in my life, the only way that I'm able to more accurately triangulate on those reverberations is to talk to people who believe something other than what I believe. And then that forces you to map out, okay, wait a second, I have a sequence of cause and effect. So for instance, I was talking to Douglas Murray yesterday when we were interviewing him, and there was a moment in the interview where I said something that directly contradicted what he believes, but he didn't understand what I was saying. So he thought, oh, you're agreeing with me. And I could feel this, I'm at a split point now. I can either wrap myself in the warm embrace of agreement, which I think people do a lot, Or I can be like, you've misunderstood. I'm actually saying the opposite of what you're saying. And now you've got potential conflict and you have to go down that path. But because my North Star is I want to expose the area in which he and I disagree so that I can find out if he's got a death blow that he can deal to my sequence of cause and effect. Mm-hmm. And if he can, then it's like, oh shit, I need to update my thinking. But if he can't, then it's like the foundations of your belief system solidify a little bit more. And you feel like, okay, I'm more on terra firma here. And that moment there, because people make decisions based on emotion, people end up often wrapping themselves in the warm embrace of the certainty that agreement provides you. The emotion feels positive. We move towards positive emotion. It eliminates the sense of uncertainty, which is deeply uncomfortable for people. And I think that's how people live their entire life. And that isn't a good way to map the truth, which means that you will be blind to the outcome of your own actions, which means life will be this mess for you of like, I don't know how to get directional energy going in my life. What I just said is so foundational to how I operate in the world. If there's any confusion, now would be the time.
I think Yeti Bandit, shout out to Yeti, kind of nailed it, where he says people generally spend time reinforcing their side to protect them from being right. So I think that
didn't make sense. People reinforce their side to protect them from being right?
To protect them being right.
They want to be right. They want to reinforce.
To kind of isolate themselves in the rightness. Because to your point of, you could have agreed and gotten to that warm embrace of acceptance. Some people feel that way about being right. You can't challenge my beliefs, because if this belief is fractured, then that means this other thing is fractured, and they start to realize it's a house of cards. So a lot of times people will double down or avoid the hard conversations in order to, you know what I'm saying?
I do, but I think that they are distinctly different phenomena. The need to be right, also emotionally based, so I certainly see the connection point. But
I guess the need to check yourself, the need to look in the mirror, the need to have that. And I think that those two are connected, as well as now if I know that I can trust myself, I can challenge myself, and it doesn't invalidate my identity, now I'm more open to seeking disconcerting evidence. But if I haven't done those like pre-layers, I can't necessarily get to a point where I'm looking for people to debate with. And that's not looking for arguments, but finding the best predictability, as you would say.
I think that people have an underlying algorithm about what they're trying to accomplish that they are completely blind to, which is, I want certainty and I want to believe that it's going to be hard to put a universal word here, that I am valuable, that I matter. And people get that from the default setting that I think everyone is born with, which is, if I'm right, then I am worthy. And so people sketch the fuck out about being wrong. Now, hey, just like in a video game, you can go in and you can edit your settings and you can toggle it from I am worthy because I am right. And you can toggle it to I am worthy because I am willing to adjust. It's an easy way of saying it. And one has high utility. They both have high utility. That's the problem. But they have utility in very different directions. If you want to be right, it's very good at pushing you into a team. It's very good at, when you're around the people that think like you think, you really do feel awesome. Like I can't stress enough how eye-opening it was for me when I got invited to Mar-a-Lago for an event. This was not like me and Trump hanging out, but I got invited to Mar-a-Lago. I went. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be on a team. Like, there were a bunch of other podcasters there. And I was like, this is how you do it. You like reinforce these relationships and you're like all laughing at the same jokes. And the utility of that was so obvious. And I was like, all I would have to do is just say the right things, Drew, and I can fit in. And they'll never know. Of course, I'm there in a sort of pseudo suit with my slightly bizarre dress, backwards baseball hat, in a tie. And I was like, yeah, it just doesn't suit my personality.
Come on, Tom.
But I could feel it. I could feel the pull. Yeah, I suppose in that sense. I mean, I think he has a bigger reason to dress in fatigues, but it was interesting. I get how people end up there. You have to work very hard to stay obsessed with utility.
Okay, so this is what I struggle with, and I'm looking for your help. I am the type of person that I was handed a crazy hand, and I figured out how to play it. So a lot of times when I'm talking to colleagues, friends, relationships, things like that, I talk to people, and some people like to, you said it yesterday, like sit in the soup. Like, I fundamentally can't do that. Like, I can't just be like, yeah, today sucks and tomorrow sucks and the day after sucks.
Or just mope around.
Yeah, like I can't, I'm not a chronic complainer. It's just not my personality type. My mom was also one of those people that like didn't care. So I can complain and I can yell and I can argue and she'll just shrug her shoulders and leave. So I learned at an early age that like external validation for like, oh, it's okay. Like, I never got the pat on the head thing. But sometimes when I interact with other people, I start to realize that some people just want that pat on the head. So I know we joke around about it. Like, sometimes with your, like, in relationships, the woman will, I don't need you to fix my problems. I just need you to listen to me. I'm not necessarily talking about that, but I'm talking about people that actually want to do better, but don't necessarily do it. And then they like have a conversation with you. And I'm like, well, you can just do blah, 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 blah. And then that feels like an attack on them because you're kind of giving them a way out. You know what I mean? So I struggle with like, so when people now ask me things, I'm like, do you want like me to listen to you, or do you want me to help? Like, how can I show up for you? Right. That's how I kind of turned it. But like, is that something that you have realized as well? Like, some people just, they're not going to get it. You just got to give up on them. Like, is one of those things?
Literally, you're quoting me at this point. You have to, the very dark emotional breaking point that I had led me to, you really have to give up on adults. And let's say that in the bright, lovely, optimistic, hopeful way. Just sit with people. Don't try to help or save them. Be there for them. And if they want specific ideas, I'll happily give it to them. But getting out of the factory settings of being a human is really hard. And I am convinced that we will eventually detect a region in the brain that maybe is triggered by epigenetics, but that I think there's just, there's a lot of genetic directional momentum when you're born that either makes it easier for you. This is going to be an oversimplification, but there's a region in the brain called the basal ganglia, which I heard described as the gearbox. And for people that have a dysregulated basal ganglia, they have a hard time getting out of an obsessive thought. So think of somebody who's got OCD. The gearbox is just stuck. Did you check the door? 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 Those things aren't aligned. They've got to be aligned. They've got to be aligned. They've got to be aligned. And for better or worse, my gearbox doesn't get stuck like that. So I don't, things from my past don't haunt me, but it's a trade-off. I forget things very fast. And my wife has said, I'm not joking, hundreds of times. Sometimes I wish I had your memory. Because if I say something that upset her, she's going to remember it for a long time. And I won't even remember we had the conversation when she upset me. And she'll remember that she upset me and I won't. I'll be like, really? She'll be like, oh my God, like it was such a stressful day. Like you were really upset. I'm like, fuck, I don't even remember that. So it works for and against me. But you can go into the factory settings and you can, at a minimum, de-emphasize those loops by saying they don't have utility for what I want to feel and experience in my life. But most people don't do that.
Yeah. What is the thing? I remember you talking about mindset, and hilariously, I have that book on my bookshelf. And until you said something, I guess my brain like noticed it, and I was like, "Oh shoot, I do have that book. I haven't finished it." Last summer, I made Lynn write a book report on it.
Cute.
Yeah. I was just trolling her. It was summertime. She was sleeping all day. I was like, get up. You write a book report. And it needs to be 4 pages, single spaced. And
Single space.
she got like a page and a half, and then I let her go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I was hoping she would like get it in there. I don't know. You know,
Here's the thing. You planted a seed. Now,
Yeah.
whether it grows
That's
something or not is a totally different question.
yeah, but I remember I brought that up to say that book is kind of what helped you kind of jump gears, but
I wish.
or it set the foundation, I
Nope.
guess. Okay.
That book did not exist. So I was cobbling all of this together. I was sliding towards depression. I saw only darkness in my future. I had no idea how to make something happen. In fact, I discover, I mean, I could walk people through the whole thing. Doesn't matter. But eventually I end up getting to Tony Robbins, who now advertises on my name. That there's something about that to me. Every time I see it, I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy. But so that started planting those ideas. As I've said many times, I started reading about the brain, all that. I cobbled together the physics of an empowering mindset. Then 10 years later, 15 years later, a Stanford professor writes a book called Mindset. Somebody's like, oh, have you read the book Mindset? And I read it and I'm like, holy Jesus, this is exactly what I've cobbled together over the last, 15 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
This is so bang on because I built it in the trenches. I built it trying to figure out how to make my dreams come true, how to stop tearing myself down from the inside, like all of these things. And you get to the physics of how the mind works. And you're like, these are the things I've had to do. Like, I don't allow myself to repeat negative things. Like, I reward myself for sincere effort, not the outcome. Blah, 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 all the things. Mm-hmm. And then you read this book and you're like, oh my God, she distilled all the real things. She shows the science behind it. And I'm like, where was this book when I was in my late teens, early 20s, when I was just in a horrible place? And I wish that the book had existed for me. I wish my parents had made me write a book report on it so that I could have had these ideas. Now, I did have Yoda. I did have the Tao Te Ching. I did have Bruce Lee, but I didn't have anybody that was codifying it in 250 pages, which would have been very helpful.
It's interesting. Okay. I'm going to put a loop in that because we got to talk about this voter ID because it's popping off in the chat right now.
Let's go.
But somebody says, what about conflicting ideas? I think it was Ricardo who said the problem is not that the problem is when you disregard other people's opinions because you think what they're doing is that they're trying to fit into a team. So it's almost like this is going back to like the Mar-a-Lago example, how it's easy to just kind of slowly align yourself with certain things, say the right things so that you can kind of fit in. How do you navigate specifically, Tom, because you aren't a team player? How do you navigate these waters of like, I kind of agree with this, but I kind of agree with that, but I don't really think that's a good utility of an idea. So how do you respectfully disagree? How do you navigate having conflicting opinions from both sides because you don't fit in any of those boxes?
So I'm operating from an understanding that I'm a biological creature, largely driven by my emotions, that I can't trust my emotions, that there is such a thing as utility, meaning you can have a predetermined destination you're trying to get to, and that you're going to navigate there based on your emotions, which are driven largely by your beliefs, which are driven largely by your values. And so I try to edit myself at the level of code. So I will go in and say, what are my beliefs? What are my values? And to adopt, like take voter ID. Okay, so I have said many, many times after much careful thought that my current belief is that you don't want to disenfranchise dumb voters, that is on the path to tyranny because at some point, somebody has to decide who dumb voters are. And I so distrust that. I so think that is screamingly dangerous that I'm like, okay, either to say that we should be disenfranchising dumb voters, I have to go back and edit that core belief. And that's where this gets really hard. This is exactly how I've thought through the Israel-Palestine thing. I'll be very curious. I don't think the episode with Douglas Murray is going to perform very well. We'll see. But if it did, I said things that I think are going to be read extremely inflammatorily. But it's because I'm going back to, if I don't say this thing, I would have to go back and edit these foundational beliefs. So when I look at the whether voters should have to show a
ID
birth certificate, no, they should have to show ID. But whether I think they should have to show a birth certificate or a passport, that's where I'm like, that's probably going too far. And so I track that back to, what are the foundational beliefs that I have that makes me think that? It starts as a feeling. I track back the feeling to, why does that give me discomfort? I identify the belief or the value that's driving that sense of, something's wrong here. Once I identify that, it feels like a puzzle piece clicking into place for me. So I'm like, yep, that is exactly where my discomfort is coming from. And then I say, I have an option. I can either just say, these are what my beliefs and values tells me you have to do in this situation, or I have to go back and edit my belief or value. And given how interwoven that belief set, that value set is into all the other things that I believe, then it's like, you might get a moment where it's causing a collision. And so now you're like, whoa, I have to tread really carefully, because when you start unwinding your values or your beliefs, it echoes through everything. And so that's where people get into this, well, my worldview feels fragile. That's when you can really freak people out. That's when you can really push them into a team. But the thing that makes me willing to do that, even though I do it very carefully, is that I am one of my deepest, most important ideas, because it's both a belief and a value, is that you can move towards a known outcome and actually achieve it. So I'm like, okay, can I get to where I want to go by editing a belief or a value? If I can, then let's edit. But I have to understand that it's going to echo. So I think that this is one, it's driven, getting people to use a birth certificate or passport is driven by the right thing. You just, culture matters. You don't want to become a one-party state. So hopefully you can already hear the values that are building up this, my answer. Okay, so those are running in my mind. I know that I want people to have some sort of ID. So then the obvious one is a state ID, which feels perfect to me. That's the right amount of friction. If you can't get a state ID, that everybody should be expected to go get a state ID. Cool. The reason they don't want to use a state ID is because of the cold civil war between red and blue. And so that's where it's like, this is the Republicans now saying, I don't trust the Democrats. And you can't lead like that. So if you find that they really are doing fraudulent things, then you go investigate the fraudulent things. But when you start putting a system that is too preemptive, now you run into problems. And I do think, given that I didn't have a passport until I was like 25, it's like, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So, but to move around your life, you need a driver's license. So that one just feels very foundational. Birth certificate is comical. Anybody that's ever tried to go get a birth certificate, it's so ridiculous. If you're going to make my birth certificate available on a website, sure. But if you're not, and you're going to make me jump through all those ridiculous hoops, then it's too ridiculous. All right, red light.
We have a super chat from Sadney Peter.
Let's go, Sadney. Welcome back.
Super chat.
Sadney Peter says, Tom,
Super chat.
I'm noticing that when I'm asking people their opinion on why they do something or believe something, they don't even know. So it becomes harder to figure out the truth in situations. Please read the rest of it on the reply in chat. And they said, where did you get that study about they removed a guy's short-term memory and he started making things up in his mind? I want to read on it.
We'll have to look it up. Maybe Drew will do us that solid and go to chat and just ask it. It probably less than a study. It's a very famous patient. And so if you look up, his name is like L or something like that. Anyway, hopefully Drew can find it. Yeah, so the vast majority of humanity is completely oblivious to the things that drive their thinking, which is why I try to loop for people. It's your biology, it's your beliefs, and it's your values. And if you want to change anything in your life, go edit one or all of those things. It really is that simple. But unfortunately, don't expect most people to spend the time trying to figure out what drives them. This is why we have emotions, so that you don't ever have to understand it. The emotion will push you in a direction, which means that you won't be paralyzed. And you'll be able to move HM. There we go.
The man who lost his ability to form new memories and begin making things up is widely known as patient HM, or Henry Mollison. This happened after he underwent an experimental brain surgery to treat his severe leprosy.
Epilepsy.
Severe
leprosy.
I said leprosy.
That's amazing.
I'm writing a biblical play, so leprosy is fresh on my mind. Yeah, brain surgery treats severe epilepsy. The surgery, which removed parts of his temporal lobes, including the hippocampus, left him with severe anterior-grade amnesia, meaning he can no longer form new memories. While he retained his prior memories and some procedural memory, he was essentially trapped in the present.
That's so crazy. What's fascinating, though, is that procedural memory is separate from, like, I did this thing. So how to do the thing is separate from the thing you did. It's so interesting to me.
It's kind of like muscle memory. I thought that was also always like a euphemism, but it's like actually like they're stored in different places.
Yeah. And the way that your vision system works is crazily subdivided. So there's a region of the brain that tracks right angles. There's a region of the brain that tracks upward momentum, downward momentum, motion itself. And you can selectively damage those regions of the brain and they will have unique outcomes. There are people who see life in snapshots. They don't see motion. How crazy. Imagine trying to pour a glass of water if you can't track motion. That's nuts. And at what's your refresh rate? Is it different for different people? So it's like, but that's really true.
Yeah.
So there is some rate at which it still refreshes, but you don't see, oh man, it's crazy.
When we talking about how, like, you said you can't see images, somebody said you can't rotate things.
I can't rotate things in my head.
Oh, I can't even picture it.
You can't picture it?
No.
I feel like I could do both of those things.
Well, good for you.
I know. I was gonna say, well, congratulations,
right? No, but like,
must be nice.
Is it just it goes black when you try to do it? Like I don't. It doesn't.
Literally, it's like the back of my eyelids. Like it's black right now.
I won't say it's black for me. It's that I can't, like, if you ask me to then translate it into a subject, I realize I feel like I've rotated it, but I can't now actually represent what it looks like. This is all part of the emotions make dots feel like they connect that don't actually connect. So if somebody was like, hey, imagine what will happen is if it is something that I'm not familiar with. So this is where my brain literally hands back a null signal. They show you a schematic of a piece of paper with lines on it. And they say, imagine folding line B so that point 1 touches point 2 and blah, blah, blah. And you do this series of folds. And it's like, which of these shapes would it make? And then it goes, and now rotate it. And which of the shapes would you see? And I'm like, yep, can't tell you. Literally no idea. It's super distressing to me that some people can do that. I'm like, that just feels distinctly unfair. I've told this story before. Again, shout out to Charlie Lee, when he was trying to teach me how to draw. And he's like, okay, imagine the robot and now rotate it in your mind. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, that doesn't even make sense. He was so excited to like explain to me what he's doing. And then I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. You need to shut your mouth right now, Charlie.
Crazy.
So he could do it.
Okay. There's a civil war happening in the chat right now. Voter ID.
Over voter ID?
Over voter ID.
Let's go.
I want to kind of...
Who's the Dave in this scenario?
Who's the
People
Dave?
like Dave are pounding the party line, but as soon as they get facts or pushback, they fall back on, oh, I'm a community. Is this Dave Smith?
Dave Smith.
So is this that there's two conversations happening?
There's two conversations happening.
Got it. Let's go. Also, it's David Pac-Man's coming up.
Yeah, they were talking about Dave Smith and Douglas Murray, that debate, and then the fractal on the voter ID.
Let's go. Let's get into both.
The voter ID was 85% yes, I think I seen.
Well, I think we should redo it because I put down driver's license.
How dare you?
Okay.
And then people started arguing about the semantics and they're like, driver's license, pretty much guns to my head. Because
let's go, man. Hey, Eunice, you pull guns on everybody all the time, so this only feels fair.
I'm allowed to, all right?
This is a one-way street.
When you're in the seat right here,
you get the guns and nobody else. This is why you need the Second Amendment. She's turning into a tyrant, everybody. Watch out. Watch out. You can't let one side have the guns.
No, the driver's license thing was ridiculous to me until I met people from New York City, and they're 50 with no driver's license. And I was just like, what? How? But you don't need a car. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So driver's license.
But how do you not need a government ID?
I was going to say government ID.
You still need an ID.
What ID do they get? A library card? What's happening?
No, you can get a non-driver's license ID.
Okay.
Which is, to me, is like, if you're already there,
It's
you're
just
already
a state-issued ID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's an official state-issued ID at the same level of scrutiny as a driver's license,
It's the same paperwork, except not a driver's test.
Cool.
That's it.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Accept that. I don't see any beef with that.
Do you want that poll instead?
Let's just do ID.
ID.
Well, hold on. We already got
ID.
that answer. If 85% of people said driver's license, yay, you've got that.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you want is, are we pushing it all the way? Because from what I understand, I've not done a deep dive on the act. From what I understand, this is going all the way to a passport or birth certificate. Mm-hmm. That to me is where this breaks. State issued. And to me, there's like a level, because if they're calling a library a state issued ID, I'm not here for that. Yeah. But if it has the same level of scrutiny, you have to show up in person, all of those things to get your ID, that you are theoretically checked against the database, that it matches your social security number, all that good stuff. So that, because the things you're going to sidestep are, if a social security number pops up and says this person is 3 years old and you're standing there as a 35-year-old man, now we've got a problem. And that's the kind of thing that has to be overcome, in my opinion.
But the social security number thing, that goes back to Elon and the other guy, whole chart, that there are non-citizens who have social security numbers. So social security number isn't a benchmark to like citizenship. I think the reason we're getting to passport is a larger thing. Becky Baker just put a good point. What about married women? Do we have to get a passport to prove we took our husband's name? Because for a married woman, her maiden name might be in her voter registration, but her driver's license might have her new name, and then that might be
got to sort it out.
It's a conflict. Got
to sort it out.
Man.
Go deal with it. It is what it is. It's a pain in the ass. I hear you. Got to do it. Yeah. I am surprised.
That's real.
What people are pushing back on is it's a pain in the ass.
It's real.
Not I can't do it.
Yeah.
I agree. It is a pain in the ass. I have a wife that took my name, and she had to go through changing all of her documentation, all of it. And this was all back in the poverty days. You gotta do it. Is what it is, Drew. Is what it is on that one. On that I don't. While I totally understand, nobody wants to do things that are a pain in the ass. Empathy at 0.
So, but it's one of those things, and like, is it? Yeah, because I feel like what is the alternative agreement? Because I mean, pain in the ass is like the number 1 and number 2.
Like, yeah. So on this, listen, doing your civic duty comes with pain in the ass. So you just have to do it. I'm not sure the value system on which this is writing. So if you think democracy doesn't need to be protected, then I'm going to sound crazy to you. If you think that you can manipulate all of this by bringing people in, giving them the social security number, or just, hey, like California, you can't show your ID in California. That is so insane that you're creating avenues for manipulation. And given that you're creating avenues for manipulation, then that's bad, in my opinion, because now you are fucking with the tenets of a thriving democracy. You've got to be able to know who the people are that you are allowing to vote.
Lynn Lavoie brought up a great point. At least have a way of identifying people, exactly like RFK Jr. played out. One of RFK's platforms was, yes, voter ID should be manual, but we'll give credits to anybody so that way everybody has access to get ID. So for the next,
what does that mean, credits?
Like, it's essentially free, easy access. They'll make the process of getting a state issued ID less paperwork. So now everybody's not rushing to the DMV and having to wait 5 hours.
That was somebody's point earlier. Yeah, they said if you're
let them do it
make
online.
Mandatory, you need
Actually,
to
not true. I take it all back.
Yeah, if you're going to make it mandatory, at least give people an easier way to do it. Because people are worried about the 90-year-old grandma who leaves her house for church and the vote. Like, now she has to go to the DMV, and then you just said yes, pain in the ass. So that fuck your grandma and her Saturday afternoons.
Yeah. Red light, and then we can come back to this.
Please clip that, somebody. Fuck your grandma on Saturday afternoon. Yeah.
Sequoia Hall with a super chat. Sequoia Hall says, whatever paperwork is required, you need to make it accessible for all citizens. So many Jim Crow style tactics happen to pre-rig turnout.
No, false. What do you mean? This is the Drew. I'm sorry, we have to pitch it to you. It is so fucking ridiculous to me that people think because you are black that simply saying you have to get this ID trips you up in a way. All white people, they're going to be fine, but sorry, black people are fucked. Does that not make you want to smash something?
Jim Crow style tactics in this context, I believe, is a way of historically leaning on ways that you can disenfranchise voters. So I think the Jim Crow style is lower income people won't be able to access it. At one time, all the black people were the lower income people. Racism.
But wait, why can't they do it?
A passport costs $200.
Okay, make it free.
That's a different policy, but okay. Yeah. The SAVE Act got passed, but the Free Passport Act hasn't gotten passed yet. So maybe we could flip those then, and then that would be an easy argument. But,
okay, but remember, I'm saying passport's ridiculous. You've gone too far. So I'm not batting for a fucking passport. I'm saying state-issued ID.
I have to take off. I have to go to a government facility that's open between
2 days off a week.
Government facilities are open Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Like, it's a pain in the ass. That pain in the ass requires a 60, 80, enter amount here for original birth certificate. Then you take that birth certificate, then I need to go to the DMV and wait another 2-3 hours. It has now taken a day's worth of labor for me. That's a day's worth of childcare. That's a day's worth of wages just to get the right to vote. Even though I was born here, I have a social security number. I'm not one of them illegals that should be policed. It's unfair to me to then have to do that. That's the best steel man argument I can give in this style of we need to require paperwork to vote, because there are certain people that can't just request off. Like, some people don't have cool bosses. Some people don't have the luxury of losing a day of wages.
Heard. That is a wonderful steel man. And so the opposite side of that to me is you have two very valid points that are coming into collision. And you have to rank order them in importance. Steel man number one, what you just laid out very wonderfully. This is going to disproportionately affect people who are working 2-3 jobs just trying to make ends meet. It is very difficult for them to take time off. Cool, got it. Going up against, it is a very real strategy to bring in, we're already seeing it, to bring in illegal immigrants and give them a chance to vote in a place like California, where not only do you not have to show ID, you actively cannot show ID. Now, to me, it is very easy to rank order those two things and say, listen, I get that it's hard, but you're just going to have to deal with it. There are realities to be faced. We have to put in protections for democracy. You do not want to be in a position where you are using that emotional appeal to make it such that you can flood people into the system and then get people going around like offering to drive people to the voting booths and all that stuff in areas that they think are going to vote in the direction that they want them to vote. That's not the position that I want to be in. I want this to be handled at the level of policy, and then things shake out where they may. And I'm not saying that it's a perfect system. In fact, I can think of better ways to do this. The problem is they all terminate in you're going to have to take time to go do this thing. There is going to be some pain in the ass. And so there is always going to be people that are caught up in the system. I don't want to disenfranchise voters, but I'm not afraid to disenfranchise voters in order to allow protecting democracy to be a higher position than making sure that it feels like the No Child Left Behind thing, where schools will drive 2 hours one way to pick a kid up to make sure that they don't have to change schools mid-school year. That's absurd, ridiculous, can't do that. Too stupid to even contemplate. But certainly up in Tacoma, that's what they do. It is bananas.
I think it really comes down to, this is the fundamental question, because I feel like we're arguing about the our IDs, passports, birth certificates, time off, days off, Jim Crow. Should voting be free? Should we take one day off, November 4th, nobody could go to work. It's a federal holiday. Everybody stay home. And everybody
That's very different. That's voting should be paid. Voting should be free. It is free until you start going, well, but you have to pay gas to drive there. Well, but you have to.
The paperwork that it takes for me to be able to vote in and of itself adds a cost to voting.
Sort of. You're saying, hey, listen, you can use an ID that you already have for something else. You don't need a special voter thing that you have to pay extra for. It's like, the vast majority of people, as of, call it 20 years ago, had driver's licenses. Now with Uber and stuff, it's going down. But the reality is that was them going, what's the thing that we know the vast majority of humans have? A driver's license. Cool. It's as painful for anybody to get that shit dealt with as anybody else. Like, I tried to deal with all that shit with an executive assistant and be like, I don't want to have to deal with it. Nope. Still ended up having to fucking deal with it. So it's all painful. But you have to have, my base assumption is, or belief in this case, is that you have to have something to come as close to possible as guaranteeing as you can that this person is a citizen. And that means that shit has to be checked. And so the only other thing that you could do is, do you want a database of fingerprints of everybody in America? If you do, we can do it that way. I'm more hesitant to do that kind of thing, but I'm super open. Do we want to do biometrics so that you scan people's retinas and it's like, now we've got it. And so you go to the voting booth, you look at the thing, it scans your retina. Cool. Again, I'm like you. There's something about it that just feels problematic. But
23andMe just got hacked.
Did it really?
Did they get hacked or did they get sold?
What's the difference?
Because they went out of business.
Somebody went out of business. Now it's sitting in the server somewhere, and Anonymous is licking their lips. Okay.
It did in October 2023.
It got hacked?
Yeah.
Let's go.
And then again in 2024.
Enjoy.
Sheesh. So there you go.
Thankfully, I was always hesitant to do that.
I never did those neither.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but
I think there should be a red light. We got E pluribus venom.
Yeah, I couldn't press it. How do you say that? E pluribus venom says, in Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, there is mandatory voter ID, and nobody has ever complained of voter disenfranchisement. Quite the contrary, the left wants tighter controls and blames the right of stealing elections.
Very interesting. Yeah. Policy. Do it at the level of policy.
Yes, but the left and the right thing, I think that's disingenuous, because the right has their ways of trying to manipulate elections, and that's redistricting, that's voter poll hours. So everybody's political man gonna political man. Like, everybody's trying to fight for power in this situation. So I think if we're really going to talk about the best way to vote, I don't think we're arguing about voter ID or polling districts. I think we're arguing about actually removing the barriers to allow as many people to vote as possible. But I think, as you can see with turnout over the years, we're having a decreasing amount of the population even vote to begin with. And I think that that's also intentional.
I don't think that's accurate.
Ooh,
I think more
Google
people voted in the 2020 election than like ever.
People voting as a percentage of population.
Oh, percentage. Yeah, I'm thinking raw numbers.
If I may also, Psycho Candy in chat said,
good name.
Everyone should be forced by law to vote if you are a citizen.
No. Nope. Just like they shouldn't be forced to have a vaccine. If people don't want to vote, they shouldn't have to vote. You're begging for trolls if you do that. Also, no thanks. Also, just there were many elections that I didn't vote in. So,
and then I'm coming after you because you're forced to.
With the blickies out.
With the blickies out.
The blickies?
The blicky.
And we also have a super chat.
Whoa. We got a great super chat from Patrick. Wait a second. Patrick.
What do we got?
Round of applause. This is a Friday super chat.
Damn.
Wait, a round of applause. Patrick coming in hot.
If we did the air horns anymore, we would.
We
really banned it.
I thought we banned it.
Air horn for the people, please.
No, wait. They don't want it.
RIP to headphone users.
Eric, don't do. Oh,
let's go.
We now know who's got the control over here. Drew. Eric, I would like to remind you who signs your paycheck.
Listen, right here, air horn. I need more air horn. I need
There's
more
no way. There's no way. We got to pull that one, I think.
Patrick,
yes, we got to pull the air horn.
I'll pull it.
Durba is here for the air horn. Grace is here for it. Wolfram here for it.
Shout out to Patrick.
Madness, Ricky.
Friend of the show. Appreciate the super chat.
We got a lot of people like the air horn. Did you guys lie to me previously?
No, it was like 2 people saying that they hate it. And then also in your comments. Anyway, Patrick writes in, says, hello. Definitely would absolutely love more ChatGPT tutorialing. Been using Grok more, but there's enough overlap to make it 1-to-1 enough. Super fascinating and useful from someone that uses it like you do. Also, have you ever read the Void trilogy, Peter F. Hamilton?
No, I've not heard of the Void trilogy. Let's look it up, shall we? Is this one we're going to be...
The Void trilogy is a space opera series by British author Peter F. Hamilton. The series is set in the same universe as the Commonwealth saga, 1,200 years after the end of the Judas Unchained. No idea what those second things mean. It came out in Still Computing.
I'll have to look it up. I'm very particular about the fiction that I read, so we'll see. I'll need lots of reviews.
2007, 2008, 2010. Peter F. Hamilton sounds familiar. Oh, he was one of the sci-fi people we were looking up.
Got it. Yeah, we had a hard time putting a panel together of people, sci-fi writers that can talk about AI.
We still have that interview too. We need to talk about
We had people that were like, I'm not even here for that. What do you mean? Have we not?
Remember the dude that said...
release that?
We did it. We have to.
We have to.
Yeah, because we were gonna pull it with Mo. Then Mo's episode was perfect.
Oh, it's too bangering.
So we just had to.
Yeah.
There was somebody that said AI is going to be. I told you this. That's going to be the equivalent of a fax machine. Like this was just a big one blip bubble. Crypto is a scam. They put their bet. All those things.
They put their bet. We'll see, man. We'll see. I think it's already changed things so much that just seems absurd to me. But hey, do your thing. Do your thing. Everybody gets to have their opinion. All right.
Okay, so we actually addressing Patrick's super chat.
We can, yes, if that becomes popular. I feel like I always end up in this rut, Drew, where I feel like I've said all the things. And so if people want to talk about it in the future, they have to ask specific questions, because otherwise I'll just loop at the high level, which is miserable to me. That is why I stopped doing mindset content. I love mindset stuff, but we got to get into the fucking weeds. Like we've got to be in the nitty gritty of it all. The great irony is I am deploying mindset techniques every day. So I use it all the time, huge part of my life. But when people just want like a high level recap over and over and over, I'm like, oh my God. So it is inevitable that I will talk about chat a lot. My poor wife is tired of hearing about it. But yeah, the more specific people get, the better my answers will become. Otherwise, I think everybody is just going to start bashing their own head in because they've heard it all over and over and over.
Yeah, maybe we do like a structured thing. So maybe we send out like a questionnaire, and like if you have chat GPT questions, maybe we just like build a GPT from scratch, like a chat GPT, and we build all the chat messages. And then we put them in there.
It would need to have
like a live
directional energy, though. We'd need to understand what we were trying to accomplish with that. Like, what do we actually want to do?
Good point. My favorite planet. Yes, Tom interviewed Dave Smith. Go check the interview out.
I did. It
was a banger too.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't feel like that one was a banger. So chat, you're going to have to let me know what you think. I needed more time with him. I was not known for talking about this stuff at that point, and had not spent a lot of time deep in it now. Now I think we would have a much more interesting conversation. Things like this, though, I find that it really comes down to, are you known for talking about these subjects? And if you're not, then people don't go very deep with you. They give you their sort of top line talking points. This is why, and if Chad has been talking about this, let's get into it. The debate between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray. I want to hear what people were saying about that. Where do people fall on that? I think the reason, whenever you see things like this where people will not stop debating it, the reason they won't stop debating it is because there's truth on both sides. And until you acknowledge that, you're going to end up in a death loop. And I think that the play is never to be on one team or the other. And this was something I really had hoped that Douglas Murray would take the bait on and join me in going deep on it. But it didn't get very productive. But yeah, I've certainly got my feelings on this. But let's play it.
You're not answering my question. You're
continuing to cite
very right-wing Israeli politicians. But what do you think is the reason?
I'm getting there. I'm saying, so I think they disengaged in order to kill the peace process. I think they put the full blockade around the country for the reason that they've always kind of done it there, that, yeah, they don't want too much stuff getting in. They want to keep them, as they put it, on a diet, and they don't want rockets to fly into Israel.
The second one is a kind of important one, isn't it? The final one you said.
It is.
If the Palestinian leadership in Gaza after 2005 had not from the get-go decided to use Gaza as a stockpiling place for rockets to fire into Israel, all of it would be different. If they had just resisted the temptation that so many of us do in our lives to stop keeping RPGs in our cellars and then Katyusha rockets in our children's bedrooms, all of it could have been different. If that desire to live in peace beside your neighbors had superseded the desire to stockpile rockets, it would all be different.
Yeah, or if
And
Israel
what
just
you
hadn't
describe
occupied
as-
them for 60 years, it would all be different too.
They
I mean,
weren't
why is it the onus
occupying-
always
they
on
weren't
them?
Well, you believe in self-determination, I'm sure. Yes.
I believe in individual rights. Yeah, sure.
Okay, individual rights. And that includes the right to make bad decisions. Yes. The Palestinians in Gaza, when they voted in Hamas, made a very bad decision.
Yeah, of course,
and
Douglas.
In the
but
years,
hang on.
And in the years after that, they made bad decision after bad decision. It was a very bad decision to continually fire thousands of rockets into Israel. It was a very bad decision to use what boats came in early on and to use the smuggling networks from Egypt, not to bring in supplies you could actually build a thriving society with, but to bring in rockets. It was a very bad idea. No, there was not starvation in Gaza after 2005. No, there was no deficit of goods coming in. I've been plenty of times.
There was no deficit?
No, there are plenty
No goods were kept out.
There are plenty. How many? Have you been to the crossing points?
No,
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been?
Well, am I not allowed to talk about it now? I've never been to. Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you can.
Right.
But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
How do you feel about that argument? Because I think that's
It is self-evident to me that you will feel differently about something when you've seen it in person, but that you can have the most blistering insights based on chain of logic, what you know to be true about the human experience. But there's a book written about the Russian gulag called the Gulag Archipelago, written by somebody who was tortured and put through it. And if I were so retarded to think that I could ever have the kind of insights that the guy who went through it would have, that's bad on me. But at the same time, everybody has their talents. And so I'm going to be able to give a totally different way of looking at it than he would. And so I would never expect anybody to listen to me before they go read the source material. That would be ridiculous, given that not only was he a far more profound thinker than I am, but he went through it. So it's like 1, 2, buckle your shoe. I mean, that's just amazing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there are going to be people that will give you an insight on something that you're just like, yeah, that's banger. So I don't want this whole argument about experts, and I saw it in the chat. I love you guys, but it's just, that's such a weird way to map the world. Like, what needed to happen during COVID before you go, oh, experts, they're trapped in a worldview just like anybody else. And what I should be seeking are people that can give me chain of logic. And then if the chain of logic makes sense, then I go for it. And by the way, if something's really important to you, going and seeing it firsthand probably will shift your perspective. So let's take kids. My rhetoric on children would change if I had kids. I'm very aware of that. So it's like you take the insight for what it's worth. If you're in a situation where you're like, nah, this part of what he says has utility in my life, but this part doesn't have utility. You take, I mean, this is literally a quote of Bruce Lee, you take the parts that work, you discard the rest. But what people want to do is, this person does not fit a category, and therefore I'm going to discard them. So Douglas Murray discarding Dave Smith because he's never been there, that's dumb. Dave Smith not realizing that, my insights would change if I went there and was on the ground and I saw this. So that's dumb. So it's like, everybody just needs to understand, yes, these things matter. Nonetheless, Douglas, I hear you. I get why you say that, but I have a chain of logic. Let's take the chain of logic and let's talk about that. And by the way, given that I'm laying these things out for you, show me how your logic changed from before you got there to after you got there. And that will be a useful insight for me that may or may not change my mind until I have been there. But it's incredibly useful to see you attack the idea. And so just like Douglas Murray's being very honest that, yeah, I don't have the option to go back to Nazi Germany. I would if I could, is sort of the underlying statement. But I can't. So the best we can do as we think through these things is fucking chain of logic. So it's like hearing, like, don't dismiss what Dave is saying, which is chain of logic matters. We use it all the time. No one is ever going to see the vast majority of things. And so anybody that's like, you can only talk about things that you've seen, done, been there, it's just dumb. It's dumb in that it's low predictive validity. It's dumb in that it has very little utility. That, in fact, here's a quote. Please burn it into your psyche. A fool never learns. A smart man learns from his mistakes, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. Let me say it another way. A fool never learns. A smart man learns from his experiences, and a wise man learns from the experiences of others. I don't have to experience everything directly to understand it. There's going to be nuances that will always change. But it isn't as different as some people want to make it out.
Red light.
We have
Let's go.
5 super chats past the threshold.
Yeah, so you're on to something that people care about.
Some of them are a little bit old because, you know, the super chats take a minute to process. But Mr. Mike AZ says, idea starting in 2026. Anyone under 18 needs to serve in the military to vote. Similar to the movie Starship Troopers. Also, forcing vote is a bad idea. I don't vote because I don't feel I have the right to tell you who can rule you.
Well, I love the second part.
I'm confused with this entire super chat.
Really? Why?
Anyone under 18 needs to serve in the military to vote. Also, forcing vote is a bad idea, but forcing them to serve is a good idea.
My brain.
I don't vote because I don't feel I have the right to tell you what. So you have an idea of something that you don't even do because you don't believe in the right of it.
Well, yeah. Starship Troopers is such a like satirical movie.
Yes.
So I think they're just like, do what Starship Troopers is doing. I'm doing my part.
Here's how I read this.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone over 18 needs to serve in the military to vote. Now, it's clearly not what it says, so my bad. But that was my response, was based on that misinterpretation. So anyone under 18 needs to serve in the military. Okay, well, let's take the interesting side of that. If you're going to allow people that are 16 years old to serve in the military, or 14 or 12 or whatever, then they can vote. At least it's a policy. I hate it, and I hate it for multiple reasons. I hate it because I don't want to see people under 18 put in that position. I think allowing people to have the full breadth of their childhood is one of the great offers of modernity. So I don't like that. But the fact that you've chosen to opt out of voting because you don't feel like you have the right to say who can rule, hey, fine, that's a you thing. I am a big believer that engaging in politics matters more than I want it to. And that's been one of the unlocks of my adult life, is like, oh, these systems are changeable. And in a world where you can really have a voice via social media, it's probably good to take action. And then the final step of like, I want to make my vote count, it feels like a good setup intellectually for how it's going to govern your behavior. If you feel powerless and you feel like all you can do is shout into the void, it's not the right intellectual framework for me. So
we have another super chat by Joshua Giles. Joshua says, Tom, I implore you to read Orson Scott Card. He uses Ender's Game as a gateway to explore tribalism, gene editing, AI, accurate creation, AI collapsing, wave functions, global war, and more. You'll devour his adult content. That's interesting. So I liked Ender's Game, but not enough to finish it. So that tells you something. If you think that there is another of his books that I should check out, let me know. My beef with Ender's Game is that, and obviously I know the punchline and I could feel the punchline coming, and I feel a bit bad because obviously it's been in the zeitgeist for so long. And so I'm sure that's part of why I could feel it coming. But anytime where it's like they're playing the video game as training for real life, even as a game developer, that setup, I just don't like it. It's somehow tied to that it was all a dream vibe. The X-Men deal with this pretty well. In fact, this was a big thing I had to deal with as a writer in Neon Future. Was there's like a training space
this virtual world that our guy was able to go into. He's one of the first augmented people that was able to access this space. And I was like, but there's no stakes. So, hey, it allowed me to have these really cool action scenes. There's a whole host of reasons why I had to do it this way. But anyway, I'm stuck with this thing where I have to set some of the comic book inside this virtual world. But now there are no consequences. And so do you do if you die inside the simulation, you die in real life? You find yourself having to do that because you're like, there has to be some consequence, some level of danger to be inside of this thing. And so I'll let readers decide if I handled it well or not. But that was how I felt in Ender's Game. It's like you spend like 80% of the book inside the video game. And so I'm like, it doesn't really matter. So anyway, I tapped out before I got to the end.
It's a good book, by the way.
Ender's Game.
End of Shadows, also good.
Nice.
Yes.
Let's go.
Patrick Wrightson.
Back to back.
Says, Void Trilogy explores post-physical civilizations, AI as governance, extreme longevity, mental AI assistant, personas, etc. The audiobooks do a good job. I'm also particular about my sci-fi, but def up your alley. Flex arm emoji.
Okay, that's all about the Void Trilogy, huh? Post-physical civilizations. Interesting. There was a comic book that I thought dealt with this really well, and I am blanking on the name right now, but it was, imagine a political negotiation between the people still in the physical world that provide the power to the servers that house all the people that uploaded their consciousness and now live inside the virtual world. It's pretty interesting. It was better at a high level than it was as an actual experience reading it, but pretty interesting setup. So if it's something like that, where these are the people that are living inside, given that you're calling it a post-physical civilization, that could be done very well. It's interesting. It's a fun setup.
Lyrith.
Let's go with Lyrith.
Lyrith says, Douglas Murray is 100% correct on Palestine, Israel, wrong on Ukraine. Dave Smith is 100% correct on Ukraine, wrong about Israel, Palestine. Saw it all. If a debate, it's a tie because canceled out debunking.
Can you, Lyrith, friend of the show, can you give us the world's most succinct breakdown of what you think Dave Smith and Douglas Murray are right and wrong about? Like, it should be punchy. I actually don't know Douglas Murray's take on
Ukraine.
Actually, do I? So his take on the Ukraine, I think, goes something like this. Russia bad, Ukraine fighting for survival, yay, Ukraine. I'm looking for a breakdown like that. And then on Israel-Palestine, very clear. Israel needs to do whatever the fuck they need to do to make sure that they are never again being attacked. Those kind of succinct breakdowns so that I understand at least the setup. I definitely don't know Dave Smith's take on Ukraine at all. Do you?
I do not.
So Lyrith, we're counting on you.
Lyrith has another super chat that came right after that says, Dave Smith is slightly more wrong in general, though, because by his logical points and in all anti-war conflicts, he is a do-nothing first, second, third, and fourth, and by the fifth, you have all died, and it's too late to defend yourself.
Fair. All right. Lyrith, your take on it, certainly there is easy to track.
I do just think it's very interesting for armchair economists and political commentators.
I'm getting triggered.
To talk about the war in such callous ways because I don't know if it's a right or wrong thing because people are dying. So there should be like you have to defend yourself, but it's almost like, when do you stop the bully from being too much of a bully? When do you stop the two kids fighting in the cafeteria because it's getting ugly? Like, at a certain point, there's a time where it's like the point is made, move on, and war just begets more war. But I know your response is, we've been warring since the 00s, so human nature going human nature. But I do have that optimism that like maybe we can
give that to me as a really specific question. So I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm not asking a question. It was more so a commentary of me journaling out loud. I think it's very interesting that we talk about wars in such finite ways, in the sense that Israel is doing the right thing or Palestine is doing the wrong thing. but we're missing a lot of the nuances of. I think everybody now realizes Israel's smaller than Palestine. When do they turn it off? When do they stop? And is it genocide or bust? Because it seems like that's the only way that they would know that they're protected and they're safe and they'll never get attacked again. But
I think Israel's way more in the ethnic cleansing camp than the genocide camp. That's my take on the situation. I don't think they would ever pursue your average Palestinian once they leave. Like, genocide is what the Nazis did. I get there's a very specific definition, but to me, genocide is about, like, no matter where you are, I'm going to find you. I'm going to cooperate with other countries. I'm going to have you killed. So the Grand Mufti, for instance, during World War II goes, I can't remember if he's based in Palestine. And yes, I'm well aware that I have just absorbed the frame that Palestine is a country, which it never was, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's just easy to talk about. Was he in Palestine? I don't know, but he was somewhere in that region. He goes to Hitler and he says, I want to start my own SS brigade, and I want to help you eradicate the Jews from my region. That's genocide. That's like, oh, like, this is dope. Like, let's get them everywhere. Nowhere to hide. We got you no matter where you go. You're in France, coming for you. You're in Russia, coming for you. We're going to take over all this space. We're going to kill them all. And that's genocide. I don't get any of those vibes from what Israel is doing, in the same way that America, in my opinion, was not in any way, shape, or form being genocidal when we fucking absolutely obliterated Iraq or Afghanistan. It was horrible. I get if people want to say it's disgusting, it's ugly, and I don't want anything to do with it. America never should have gone in. False pretenses. Yep, all sounds true to me. Genocide, no. Now, what I see playing out in reality, whether it's the desire or not, they are ethnic cleansing that space simply by making it unlivable. So that just seems definitionally true. All right. You nice. I see that red light.
We still have 2 more super
Let's
chats.
go.
All right. We've got Sequoia Hall saying, like the community you're creating here in the lives, lots
you.
of varied options. And Tom, Drew, and Eunice are doing a good job of keeping the conversation collaborative in nature, learning together.
I love it, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
Appreciate that very much. I think about this a lot, because if we don't do something unique, there is no point in doing it, at least at the stage in my life that I'm at. So yeah, it feels like we're building something that is different and better, as I like to say. We'll see. Time will tell.
Patrick writes and says, also on the subject of reading lists, my wife and I are currently going through yours. Super good so far. Flex arm emoji. Man, I would love it if Mark Andreessen would put one out. It would be a banger.
Yeah, that's actually really true. I would read the life out of that. He's so interesting. I really like that guy. Fascinating. All day, every day, Patrick. If we could get him to do it, I would.
And Melanie Jenkins. Thank you, Melanie.
What's up, Melanie?
Melanie says, other countries' high school grads have a gap year. Idea. American teens should do a year of service, not army, but to any cause for the greater good. Your thoughts on it, IT team?
I don't hate that.
So like volunteer work?
Yeah, so you go to the Green Corps or the Army or the Navy or some nonprofits, and I think that'll be interesting, and that'll give people more structure as they enter into college.
I do not trust our government to know the best way that somebody should spend that time. Not at all. So if we had to do it because we were actively at war, sure, I could see it. I think far better to find the people that want to protect this nation and give them a rad opportunity to do exactly that. That way it's people volunteering. They want to do it. I get why in Israel, they're so small and have such a small population. They've got to do it. I did not like the softening of the U.S. military. Again, I'm a product of the 80s. But that's how you get people to want to be in the military. You make it look awesome. Like Top Gun, dude, the amount of people that signed up from that propaganda, all of life is spin. So I don't have beef with propaganda. But them making it look attractive was insanely effective for the number of people that signed up.
But I mean, my thing, okay, high school senior, they have 12 options and they could pick those 12 options.
They have infinite options. How the hell do we get to 12?
No, I'm talking about for this gap year specifically, like for this U.S. service year.
Okay, you're making a pitch.
Yeah.
Got
so
it.
this is my policy. So
I'm going to give them 12 options.
Yeah. And
okay.
then
Can you give me a couple examples? What are the 12
all
options?
branches of the military. So Army, Space Force, Air Force, those are the first 6 or whatever like that. Greenpeace, corporate, something, international peace arms, 4 or 5 of those. And then like 2 or 3 environmental sciences, nuclear power plant places, like
and
emerging sciences.
You have to do it.
You have to pick one of the 12.
You lost me.
Jinx, okay.
Literally, no matter what the 12 are, the second you have to do it, I'm hard pass.
Got it.
I'm saying no because of the options, personally.
So if there was an option, it has to be in service of the country in some way. What option is missing?
If they didn't say in service of the country, they said in service for the greater good.
Well, I mean,
specifically in the quote.
Yeah, but the greater good through the lens of the American country.
I'm thinking like if there was a program to like help the elderly, like I would do that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with options, you're all for being forced. Well, you don't mind the force at all.
So instead of 12 options, it should be 35 options. And in those 35 options, there should be like elderly care and healthcare workers.
Yeah, but I'm also not thinking of it. I also wouldn't want a gap year. Personally, I think it should be embedded into your like high school experience.
Got it.
Because I feel like if more like teenagers did some sort of like community service or something, and then it was like, oh, okay, you did like your 10 hours required for the year. Cool. Because I feel like I did that kind of stuff just by being in clubs.
Do you guys think schools should be forced?
Yes.
To?
Because I think right now in America, like you have to, at a minimum, homeschool, right? Like there is no option to my kid just doesn't get educated. Is there? I don't know is the honest answer.
I don't have kids, so I
But when
have no
I was
idea.
growing up, I certainly had the belief that by law, we had to go to school.
I don't know if it's by law. If a kid is walking through school hours, he can get detained. We need to figure out where and why, but it's not like you're going to jail. And if they then see that the place is unfit, that could be like a DIFUS case, or I don't know what it's called out here, the Division of Youth and Family Services. That's what it was called in Jersey. So it could be brought up.
So if you're not educating your kids, you can take them away from the parents.
Yeah, it could be like
but you don't consider that like legally forced?
No, but it could be like like you can argue negligence, stuff like that. But somebody would have to take an interest, see the kid follow. Like it's not like I show up on a Monday. If he's there, you're getting a fine or something.
I ask because I'm trying to make it as hard as possible to stress test my own belief.
I don't know. What about you guys' regions? Let's see in the chat.
I don't feel good about that. I don't like the force. Not here for the force. I do not trust the government. Kids they belong to the parents. They do not belong to the state. Yeah.
Nate Trout says, of course, school should be forced. And then Esoteric Dichotomy right under said school should not be forced.
Yeah.
And then...
Oh, man.
That sounds like a poll.
Schools definitely shouldn't be forced.
A poll?
That one
sounds like
hard for sure.
I just
but school is good for
I don't
children.
trust
Esoteric
parents.
Dichotomy, we sure about that?
I don't trust parents enough.
It can be.
What should the exact wording of the poll be? Because...
Should school be required by law?
In Georgia, you go to jail if you miss too many days. Like even if you're 7?
Be required by law?
Sheesh.
No forced straw hat. I'm with you. Just like forcing you to get an ID. Remember, you're not fucking forced, Ricardo. I never once said force them to get an ID. I said, if you want to vote, then you have to have an ID. That is not the same as forcing people. If you want an education, you have to do something to get educated.
The poll is out.
But that's very different than forcing people to go to school. The parents go to jail, says Flobert. That's bad mojo. I don't trust the government. Mad villainy. You and I don't know how I feel about agreeing with somebody whose name is Mad Villainy, but I agree.
Who do I trust more, parents or the government? I absolutely don't trust the government to educate my kids, but I do trust them to have a baseline that they should have a standard that kids should be in school. Because there are parents that are ruining kids because they think they don't have to. So at least put them in school.
Drew. Well, the good news is, Drew, not everybody on these mics is forced to agree, because that is crazy to me. Literally crazy. That's unhinged.
Your base assumption, if I can map you're just no top-down rule. You don't like force. You don't like if it's across the board, you have an issue with it.
Yes. Now,
don't forget, Tom hates authority figures.
Also true, but that's not what's driving this. Why do I not like top-down?
Because we're going to end up eating kids.
there's an easier way to say that, which is it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If it worked, I'd be all for it. It doesn't work.
In a perfect society, complete utopia.
Yes.
Like, it's everything that you would say, this is a well-functioning society. We're going to beat China. We're going to beat all these other countries. We're the number one country in America in the world by a landslide.
Yep.
Like, in that society, all kids go to school.
False. Obviously false.
Okay, so what do kids do then?
They get educated. All kids get educated.
Okay.
For sure.
How do they get educated?
My vote is AI.
How do they get educated by AI?
Are you talking right now today?
In the perfect utopia, I'll give you 5-10 years, whatever you need to answer the question.
Oh, Jesus, you'll give me 10 years?
Whatever you need to answer the question succinctly.
In 10 years, much like you have, imagine an optional school setup where you can go to a public place, because I do want them to engage with other children. And it is a mixture of humans and robots. And there is a one-to-one relationship between the child and the AI that they're engaging with. When you go up to a bot, the bot auto recognizes who you are and switches over into your personality, memory with you, all of that. So you can engage with something that's embodied. You can engage with a terminal and just do your thing. It knows exactly what the outcomes are that we're looking for based on your particular skill set, your intellectual capabilities, and the things that you love. And it gives you like this hyper-tailored education that you can also direct. So there are going to be certain tests, let's say, that you have to be passing if you want to keep progressing in a given area. And yeah, that is it. So that way you're engaging with other students, but it's also being patrolled because kids left to their own devices will fight and waffle and not pay attention and blah, blah, blah. The brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25-ish. So love all of that. Yeah, literally like that. That is utopian to me.
You just described a really well-run school.
Love it.
So they should be schooled.
Obviously.
Okay. So before it was educated, and then I said they should be schooled, and then you said no, educated.
Drew.
I'm just trying to line up
What do you think is the piece that where you feel like you just backed me into a corner and I'm like, he's going to see that I did not walk into the trap? What is the difference between what you and I are mapping in our heads?
I'm requiring kids to go. You're not.
Correct. So I'm not saying don't have these things. I'm saying have these things. I want kids to be able to go and experience other kids and to be able to learn at the highest level. I want the government to pay for it all. I will fork over tax dollar on tax dollar on tax dollar. If kids are going in and they're coming out with stable emotional self-esteem, a vision of agency and how they can move through the world, and an education that matches their intellect and their desires, holy but Jesus, that sounds awesome. But you should not be forced. So if I want to do something like that in my home, because I don't like the algorithms that you're putting in front of the kids, I don't like whatever I don't like. I want Jesus in the curriculum. I want Jesus out of the curriculum. I want this to be the Quran based, whatever, that I can do that. And I can have my kid in my home because I don't believe that they should be around other children. I think they should only be around other adults. I don't believe that, but I'm just saying, if people want to do that, they should be able to do that. Central planning from the top down, no bueno, avoid, avoid, avoid.
Okay.
By all means, tell me where that goes wrong and where that is dumb. I'm totally here for it.
I think we don't have a baseline for education, which means we don't have a baseline for intelligence, which means
But did we just pull back into the present? Because you gave me 10 years, which means...
because that doesn't solve the problem. You just made schools a lot better, but that doesn't help. There's going to be certain communities that can't afford robot one-to-ones. There's going to be certain people. Free. There's going to be certain people in utopia. Free is just
no, but I'm saying there's going to be taxpayer funded. It's schools, but not ridiculous.
Just like public school, like it's taxpayer funded. It's good, but there's going to be a private school that's going to be better. That's going to be not taxpayer funded. Just like our London argument, just like our UBS argument.
Okay, so wait, are you driven by it all has to be the same?
No.
Okay.
I'm driven by.
I'm no longer tracking the problem, and I am sincerely trying to figure out what the beef is. My
beef is that I believe education and health are the fundamentals to a healthy, thriving country. I think if we put all the bullshit aside and just made sure all of our citizens were as smart as they can be and as healthy as they can be, America will then be the number one country.
Okay, but
regardless.
so I'm
gonna get toward that. The way that I think we get there is that I think that we need to have a school standard that at least has a.
Remember, we're 10 years in the future. I just need to keep anchoring us there.
Yep.
Okay.
I think our solidified foundation needs to be something that you're going to say is top-down authoritarian. I'm going to say is base level requirements. I think right now how society is run, and I think 10 years from now, unfortunately, it's going to be run the same way, just more manipulated, is that we give the bare minimum for free and we give the ideal model to those that can afford it. I can use community college as an example. I can use healthcare as an example. I can use technology as an example. Anybody can get an iPhone, but not anybody can get the iPhone Plus Premium. Anybody can use ChatGPT, but not anybody can afford the 200 Plus. So there are certain gaps in just access and capabilities and limits. I think that...
Hold this time.
Okay.
You're putting so many pieces on the table. If I said that the poorest kid in America would have an education that's 100 times more effective, meaning the kid will feel good about themselves, they will understand the things that they're learning in a provable way. There's not going to be anybody that's behind in terms of reading and stuff like that unless they're just intellectually incapable. So it's 100 times better than it is now. Would you be like, yo, that's a win?
Then today, yes, that's a win.
Okay. So we've already won.
Compared to today, yes.
This,
but because now,
now
we're one to the 1900s.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
So the thing that I'm trying to zoom in on is you just said today's better than we were in the 1900s, but still not a win. The future that I'm painting is
You're saying I'm saying it's not a win.
Correct.
No, it is a win compared to when we were.
Yeah, but you still something still
12.
bothers you.
Because
here, can I give you what I think the punchline is so that you can drill in and tell me why this is wrong? You're talking about equity, and there's never going to be equity.
I'm not talking about equity, no.
Cool. Explain how then, when I'm saying the poorest child in America will have an education 100 times better than the education they have now, and you're still, I can tell, resisting because you know I'm going to go somewhere with this. So you're hedging. Why isn't that unmitigated? We're done. We've already done it, Tom.
The way that we got to this argument is because it should be required. And you're saying that the poorest kid is going to have access to this. That's if they go to school. How are they going to be? Whose responsibility to get them to school? And I'm saying we need to have some type of law, some type of force. Call me an authoritarian. That I think that education should be like kids should be in school. I don't think that they should be left to their own devices.
That's fine.
I don't think that they should. And if a parent wants to take their kid out of school, that's completely fine. That's up to their choice. However, that's going to invalidate the poorest kid will have X, Y, and Z. Because there's people that are there's negligence that's going to be there. So that's not
to find out if that's really your problem. Because you, I think, have made your position understandable to anybody that's listening. I can certainly steel man your argument. If you want me to, just let me know. I had moved on because I thought you had moved on to the words you said were, but there's still going to be people that have a private school that's even better. That's a totally different issue. That's what I was talking about, not the fact force, not force. You and I just disagree. That's fine. I didn't feel any compulsion to convince you. You think people should be forced. I don't. Understood, right? So I'm not in the business of trying to persuade you. I understand your position. I feel like you understand my position. Now I'm moving on to the, is it a problem if these kids, and I'm queuing off of what you said. So if these kids have an education that's 100 times better than where they're at now, but other kids, because they're richer, have an education that's 200 times better, the only thing that's left is fairness or equity. Like it bothers you is how I'm mapping you.
That's not where we were going. We were going to the school thing. Because what you described as a complete utopia was that a school will have one-on-one education, they'll have all these things. I'm like, yes, that's a similar argument to me as if we're looking at the 1800s as telling kids, well, we have people that get 2 meals a day and they go out and play and they're with their friends and they know about history and world affairs and math, and that should be good, right? And the person from the 1800s who's a sharecropper would be like, well, yeah, my kid doesn't have to farm at 7. They can actually learn and grow. And then we get to the actual thing that they're learning, and it's not used efficiently. It's not used effectively. So the school system inherently isn't all the way there. So the way that
I'm not tracking at all. Can you give me in 35 words or less the thesis statement?
I think you're moving the goalposts right now. And my thesis was we went from should school be forced? That's the first question. We assumed that. The second thing was what's utopia look like? You gave me definitionally a school. And I'm saying, okay, so you're saying the utopia is every kid is get educated in school. You just don't think it should be forced. So if it's not going to be forced, then that's not going to fix our education problem, our intelligence problem that we have now currently.
Okay, I'm still not able to find. It'd be very interesting, Eunice, if chat sees the thing that I'm missing.
Numbers
right on cue.
Okay,
all
go
right.
for it.
Corey just said,
is this actually going to be the thing that I'm missing? Because I don't want to lose this thread if this is going to take us in a totally new direction.
no, people are, first of all, the poll was 50 to 49. 50.
All right, sorry, this is going to just take us in a totally different direction. So where I'm at is I'm describing school.
I'm laughing at chat, not at you.
What's that?
I'm laughing at chat, not at you.
It's
slowly turning into Drew wants DEI. Like he wants equality. That's not what I'm saying.
So it's confusing because that's what it sounds like. I can't map to what you're saying anything other than equity. Where it's like, if there is, not on the force thing, I feel like we already understand each other. Yeah. So again, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm trying to understand. Mm-hmm. So the force thing, I think we understand each other. So that doesn't feel, if people in chat want to argue about it, we can argue about it, but I feel like I understand you. Where I get lost is when I described the school thing, but said people shouldn't be forced. The reason that I'm saying that is I want kids to have a chance to interact. So the second that you're grouping them all up, it's going to sound very reminiscent of school, but it feels like there's a definition to school that means something to you that it doesn't mean to me, because I'm just saying
school is you leave outside your house to get educated.
Okay.
Okay. So could we agree that that's the definition of school?
No.
Okay. How would you define school?
Where you're around other children so you can be socialized and you're educated. Effectively, in my utopia vision, effectively matters to me.
Copy. I like that definition too.
Okay.
You describe school when you describe the utopia. So in a perfect world, the ideal kid to be the most intelligent that they can be, they would go to school. I'm saying America, where we stay right now with our educational rankings, is bad. Mm-hmm. The places that we want to compete with, the people that we want to take over, the China Hawk. Yeah. China requires school for the first 9 years.
Okay, but we're back to forced again?
I think so. That's where this conversation started from. So the equity and all these other things is like.
But you said a thing that I just want to be very clear that I'm queuing off of. And if you're saying, sorry, I don't actually want to talk about that. I do want to talk about the forced versus not forced. Then we can come back there. I latched on to and thus jettisoned the forced not forced thing when you said, but there are going to be some people that. Because I had just described utopia and you're like, but there are going to be some people that have an even better utopia. And I was like, oh, sure.
Okay, so now,
that's where, let me
try to map this.
Totally went down that avenue. But are you saying we are not done with the forced versus not forced, Tom?
This entire thing is about the forced and not forced. Now we're just doing fractals that started there. But we can agree that forced and not forced, agree to disagree, we'll take that off the table. Now you want to see what I talked about when I said there's going to be people that have even better levels of education than other people. And that's where the DEI thing comes in. Right now, do we have a dumb voter problem in your opinion? There's a bunch of people that are uneducated in America that are required to make adult decisions.
Far more troubling.
Far more troubling.
They are incapable, regardless of amount of education, to think through the world well.
So they're lost causes, period.
Yes. They don't have the intellectual horsepower. They cannot think through the world well.
And this is like, even if I talk to them at 2, lost causes.
100%. There is nothing you can do. The reason I do this is to force people to look at the hardest one, because obviously there's a spectrum.
Yeah.
There are 2-year-olds that you could save. There are 2-year-olds that you can't. So I'm saying, let's talk about the guy that is, they meet all the requirements. They have an ID. They are a U.S. citizen, but they are definitionally a moron. What do you do with that person? And I'm saying you let them vote, because I don't trust people to say this is who a moron is. I look back in history and I see people go, only white people are really smart enough to do this. I look back in history and go, well, if they own land, then it matters enough. And I'm just like, nope, fuck you. History has proven you guys cannot be trusted to draw a fucking line. So I'm just saying we need a policy. There do have to be lines. And I'm okay with age. I'm okay with citizen. I'm not okay with smart enough. That's where I'm like, nope, that will be gerrymandered in ways that make me very uncomfortable. And so I'm saying I'm prepared to live in a world where people who other people think are too dumb to make decisions, they still get to vote. Let's call this, and I really like this person, so I'm so sorry that they have become the internet version of this. Let's call this the Sam Harris problem. From where Sam Harris is sitting, I probably shouldn't be allowed to vote because I just don't have the cognitive horsepower to parse the issues in the way that he does. So believes Sam Harris. Now, he has never said an unkind word about me. So I'm not saying he actually believes that about me, but I'm just saying that everybody has somebody that they think is too dumb to parse this well, and they want to disenfranchise them. I mean, play the clip from Asmongold. He's literally like, I want to disenfranchise more voters. Like a lot of people. And I'm just saying, bad impulse. Asmon, it's a bad impulse. And way better to say, I'm willing to live and die by the distribution of intelligence. It is what it is. There are going to be a lot of people that are dumb. And here's the bad news. The only real, or maybe the good news, the only real dumb people you have to worry about are the people that are dumb and motivated. Because now they're actually going to go do the thing, get to the polling place or get the thing sent to their house, and they're going to actually vote. Most dumb people, they're never going to vote. You don't have to put anything in their way other than God said, fuck you. And because God told them, you're nerfed, they just never make it to the
I think
polling booth.
that's where the fundamental difference is. Because I don't think I think if we caught everybody young enough, we can get them to be functioning at least. I don't think there's any quote unquote lost causes.
Cool. You have, from where I'm sitting, a belief that is so erroneous, life is going to slap you about the head, neck, and chest. But I'm either right or wrong. This is where, when I realize people they're going to FAFO. Like, if you go down that road, you will realize, oh, wow, like there are motherfuckers I can't save. And unfortunately, life has taught me, and boy, oh boy, am I open to being wrong, because this makes me sad at a level. Drew, you will never understand. I once got pulled aside. I won't rat this person out. I once got pulled aside and was chastised, just absolutely mocked relentlessly, because this person was letting me know, one day you're going to realize that you can't help everybody. That some people, they legitimately, from an architecture of the human mind standpoint, they will never come around. And I ignored them for probably a decade. And then with everything I had, I ran the experiment. I tried. Let's see what happens. It didn't work. So I was like, wow. Like, it felt, there were some people, it just felt so overwhelming that, I mean, this is where all of my ideas, I'm up against a frame of reference. Oh my God, piercing that frame of reference is very difficult. Oh my God, like they're stuck on factory settings. Okay, I'm trying to explain it to them, and I'm realizing I have my limitations. I pray that there is somebody out there, AI, that AI can sequence the words perfectly attuned to you, your level of understanding, that you have that breakthrough. But I just believe it will never happen. You will have to gene edit them or augment them in some way, because they can't process the data.
Is it a bell curve thing then? That throughout human history, there always was this 20%.
Yes.
That was just. So then it's not a new problem. It's just a
Definitely not.
Copy.
You can make it worse with pollutants and toxins and all that. The fact that 1 in 36 people or whatever have autism, that's a very bad sign. You should find out the answer to that immediately.
Yeah. Out of the 20%, do you think it's...
I never said 20%.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying it's going to be some number. I don't know what the number is.
Copy.
Okay. But some people fall below the cognitive threshold. I don't know what the actual math of that will be.
Okay. I think that's how we kind of squared that circle. Polls, comments, chats.
Many.
Eunice.
Let's go.
The poll was about going to school, forcing your child to go to school. And it was 50% yes, 49% no, I'm very where that 1% went.
There was
it's
no
gone in the ether. I don't need YouTube.
There was no
YouTube's
unsure.
that's not mathing. There's no not sure. No. You know what? Just to fractal off that point, I'm tired of the not sure. Make a decision, people.
Wow.
All right.
You're just coming in hot. Yes. I felt the guns coming out on that one.
This is a fractal. I'm owning it. Are you like I hate indecisiveness? Like,
oh, I'm very indecisive.
So okay,
you can't have two in the relationship. I'll tell you right now, if I was indecisive, Lisa and I'd be dead in the water.
On the opposite end, do you tend to attract people that are very decisive? Like you like to be around people that go, like you turn your brain off type thing? Because I'm trying to think, is this like, are you saying like this bothers you, or in life it's just like I hate that?
Oh, in life, I love being around people who are just like, yep, do that. Yep, we're going here for this. I'm like, perfect. The less decisions I have to make, the better.
Nice.
I'm not like everyone's like, what do you want to eat? I'm not picky. Pick. Yeah.
I actually believe you.
Why?
Most people, they say that, and then I'm literally speaking of my wife right now. I don't care, and then I'm like, cool, let's go here. Well, no, I don't think I really want to. I'm like, oh my God, like I will make a decision at any time, at all times. I am absolutely unafraid to just say we're doing this. But what drives me bananas is when I say let's do this, the person doesn't know what they want and they push back. I'm like, you have to be fucking joking right now. I'm like, the phrase lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, do not try to lead from behind. Nothing drives me more crazy. There
was a TikTok I seen that the guy was like, this is the new hack, fellas, to get your girl to decide where to like go.
I know, yeah.
When he was like, babe, you won't believe where I'm going to take you today. That place you always wanted to go to. She's like, oh, so. Yes. And then he just like takes it there. So it's like, that's how you always get the girl to decide.
Actually,
try that this weekend, guys. Let me know how it works.
I've learned that I'm like, they're like, oh, if you want to pick, I'll give them like 3 options. And I'm like, you pick from those 3. Because those 3, I don't care type of thing. If I have an opinion, I'll mention it. But if I truly don't care, most of the time, I don't care.
It's good.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the
We did that with movies, by the way. We would make a list of movies. We did this with my sister. We'd make a list. Okay, every movie on this list, all of us are okay watching.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, cool, we can't lose. And so then one of us would just go pick, like, oh, I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
Cool. And if there's any movie on the list that you don't like, this has to be a list of movies all 3 of us like. And I mean, that certainly narrows the world, but it makes it a lot easier to make a decision. Mm-hmm. All right, sorry, you were going somewhere.
I am going somewhere. We have some regular chats and some super chats, but I want to address some of the regular chats first because those super chats came in after.
Sorry about it.
Stefan Frawatz said, Tom's basis for the opinion is going to disintegrate when taken to its logical conclusion. Quote, only parents have agency over the treatment of their child, end quote, doesn't work out well.
Well, he is making a leap that I did not make, which is that there should be no point at which the government would step in. If you have a child that's being abused, you got to take them away. But boy, oh boy, should everybody be very terrified about who gets to decide what is being abused. But I think we can all agree, if you're beating your child, if you're sexually abusing your child, like hard pass. But my mom spanked me. Was she beating me? Should I have been taken away? I certainly don't think so. So this is one of those, man, if you don't have a default that the parent is the right level of analysis for the child, a default, not an absolute, but if default, you're going to end up in some crazy places.
So you know how we have like 20% of like dumb voters or some percentage? You don't think we have 20% of dumb parents?
Of course.
So just like how when you buy an iron and it says do not iron with this while you're wearing the clothes, 80% of people aren't going to do that. But there's 20.
I really want to believe it's 99%.
But there's going to be somebody that's like, I just got this one wrinkle on my arm. I'll be good. And they're going to burn themselves, right? Uh-huh. Is it right for the parent's lack of cognitive ability to impact their child that might not be in that 20%? And they might think that they have all the answers. Where if we can all agree that there's this utopian school that has 1-for-1 and robots and logic and interaction and all types of things, and everybody gets equal schooling, and there's going to be the 200% schooling and the 100% schooling, but at least that baseline is better than now. Shouldn't they have to go to protect? After 9, you could do whatever you want. After 10, you could be a bad parent again. But could we at least set the framework to make sure? No, that's still
true.
No, it just, as soon as it have to, it just clicks.
Let's not be dogmatic. Okay. So I don't want to back myself into a corner and say this is some crazy absolute and I need everybody to join me here. Let's just take directional life lessons.
Bless you.
Sort of bless you, since he held that one in.
Shout out to Eric.
Hold it in, sneezes.
It becomes, what is your default stance about what's the right level of analysis? A base assumption about protectionism. So how much do you have to protect people from themselves? So let me give you an example. If you protect a tree from wind, it will fall over when it gets to a certain height. Mm-hmm. It actually needs the wind. Mm-hmm. If you protect a child too much, then they become fearful. And so you actually have to let your kids take a risk, and something really bad could happen to them. And something will happen to them. And so imagine if you said, okay, everybody, you can't let children out of your house until they're 18 because they could get kidnapped, they could get hit by a car. And given that we know some parents are not going to be good to those children, everybody is going to have a government agent. It's AI, so it's a bot. Don't worry, the expense will keep it very low. But you are going to have a bot in the house with you to make sure that this child is safe. That's a dystopia for me. Mm-hmm. But by letting kids go outside, some of them are going to die. And that is going to be, it will ruin that family forever. Mm-hmm. And so by allowing kids to go outside, I understand that some percentage of families will be broken forever in a way that's unimaginable. But I'm willing to sacrifice them. And I'm willing to accept I may be the one that gets sacrificed. And so this is I just come back to what works. When I look at China and I go, listen, China, the 1960s, clearly that does not work. But does China of 2025 work? Is it even better? Tom, your objective is human flourishing. If they beat us economically, if people are happier in every metric that we can measure, at what point, Tom, would you say, oh, that's better than democracy? Yeah, I would. There are metrics that you could show me where I'd be like, whoa, maybe it is better. That's why I'm saying AI is going to take us somewhere I can't predict right now, because it really may be better. Like, it may be better for me to go, I just need to submit to AI. I just need to let go, let God, baby. And maybe my life would be better. We'll see. I won't get to that and go, no, I'm going to be dogmatic. I'm going to get to that and be like, well, let me tell you, when we were going through COVID, and everyone was like, take the fucking jab because it's better for everybody, I was like, word. And then I watched how that played out and I was like, nope, hard pass. We did not do well. We did not assess the situation correctly. And once I realized I was being lied to, then I was like, nope, you can't force people to do this. This is crazy. And so even though I went and did it, I was like, you cannot force people to put something in their body. That's crazy town. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy town because I don't think people, sans AI, are certainly not good at long-term forecasting of how something's going to impact. So all of that just becomes a hard pass. So that is the operating system that I'm running, that directionally you are far better. History tells us you are far better to go with the individual's the right level of analysis. Governments don't know what they're doing, so be very fucking wary about how many things you put in their hands. Mm-hmm. That challenge and difficulty are actually necessary things, that there is such a thing as being zero empathy is bad and all empathy is bad. And so now you need a tension between the two sides. All of this stuff is messy, but mappable. And given that it's messy, but mappable, we ought to strive to be thoughtful about following chains of logic, about leveraging history to educate us as much as it can, to build things that actually help you overcome the chaos machine of life to lead you to the very specific end game that you are trying to achieve. And I feel that people often steer by theoreticals rather than the reality on the ground.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to leave that alone.
Why? I want, whether it comes from you or it comes from chat, I want the hardest punch to my face so I can find out if what I believe is.
I get what you're saying. I feel like that was kind of like a whataboutism where you kind of created a new example and about how those examples and what you just said was completely.
So you're saying stay with the forced education.
Was completely accurate. We're still not on forced education. It was, I think the underlying thesis that's tying all your thoughts together is that you are okay with the percentage of population that has to slip out. And I'm using slip out as a generic term to meet die, be cogs of society.
Undereducated, their life sucks because they never were forced to go to school.
And that's the price of individual freedom.
That's correct. But now the question becomes, why does Tom want individual freedom? And Tom wants individual freedom because that is the way to get the most number of people, the largest number of people to a good place is individual freedom. And so, yes, I'm perfectly willing to accept that there's no way to get everybody there. There's just no way. You're never going to.
There's no 100% solutions. There's only 85%. So
there's no utopias. There's only trade-offs.
Yeah.
So it's all a trade-off. If you give people clean needles, you don't eliminate the drug problem. You don't even eliminate HIV.
You agree? I got no qualms.
Some motherfuckers are just gonna do meth under a fucking overpass.
I got no qualms on the jabs. I got no qualms on the homeless. I got no qualms. I am a 2-issue voter.
Cool. Let's go back to education. Let's go back to health.
That's it. Health
Drew,
and education.
I know what people should be eating. And I legitimately believe into the marrow of my bones that if people ate only what I told them to eat, their life would be so much better. They would be healthier. Are you going to allow me to be the SS of diet?
No.
Why?
Because I think individuals are different.
I'm obviously going to tailor it to individuals.
Now at this point,
I'm just going to steer by glucose.
Are you government funding? So if they are on SNAP, are you dictating the menu? Okay. You can be that person, and that person can get elected every 4 years,
Why am I stopping at the people on SNAP? Everybody's going to eat the way that I want.
But that's a fundamentally different society.
So you're saying because we already force them to go to school, it's not fundamentally different, and therefore it's okay.
Yes.
It's at least trackable logic.
Yeah.
But now the reason that
if you have the ability to buy whatever fast food you want, you should be able to kill yourself at whatever pace you dictate.
We just had that conversation. Undereducate yourself. You just said health and education. Those are your two things, but it's perfectly
because
fine.
I'm looking at it from an adult and I'm looking at it from a child.
Okay, so now we've narrowed it down to kids.
Yes.
Okay, I only want to be the SS of children's diet. We good?
No, because I only want to be the SS of kids' diets because now you're dictating what that person is eating. You're taking away their cultural nuances. There are different things that go into how a person eats. That's you fundamentally walking in and dictating how their kitchen operates. The reason I think it's different of saying how much education they consume is because if you leave it just to the parents to make those decisions, there are crappy parents. There are parents that are going to get...
Look how many kids have adult onset diabetes at 7. So clearly parents cannot be trusted with diet, not even a little bit. They're killing their kids. It is far more troubling to me that people kill their kids with food than that they undereducate them.
You can diet away your diabetes. You can't diet away your undereducation.
So you're... both of those statements, I understand where you're trying to go, but let me hit you with this. The reason you want to educate people when they're young is it impacts their brain development. The reason that your diet when you're a kid matters infinitely more than it matters when you're older is because it fucks up your entire development. Your brain will be fundamentally different because you were a obese diabetic child than it would have been if your tendons will be different. Your muscle development will be different. Everything will be different if you are fat your entire youth, for sure. So I'm not sure I understand why you're okay with one being completely jacked up and not the other. Now, you said something which was like, it's a cultural thing. You're getting rid of their cultural nuance. And remember, I'm the one saying I want everyone to have their own cultural nuance. So they should be able to eat whatever the hell they want. They should be able to undereducate their kids. If they want to eat McDonald's all day, every day, they should be able to do it. Now, why? Because when I started Quest, the government wanted to penalize us because our food was high in fat. The government was fucking idiotic. They did not know what they were talking about. Mm-hmm. And so quite literally, they can go fuck themselves because they were killing people and clapping and cheering like fucking retarded seals the whole way because they thought they knew some shit and they don't know a fucking thing. So you've got to let people, N of one, I'm going to do me because the right level of analysis is I will take the slings and arrows of my own bad decisions, but you're going to let me think for my fucking self. And you are not going to force shit down on me because you do not know what the fuck you're doing. And history has proven governments are retarded. They don't know what they're doing. They get blinded, they get corrupted. And so it's like, hey, you've got to let me opt out of as many things as you can. I understand. You're not going to let me opt out of paying taxes. I get it. But boy, oh boy, you're not going to make me pay for it and do something that's fucking ridiculous. That is absurd.
Can we just round of applause for Tom?
See, this is the problem. When I become angry dad, people love that shit. It's so weird.
Go off, Tom. Get it. Let's go.
Let him cook.
Let him cook.
Let him cook.
All right, super chats.
Let's get to those super chats. We do have quite a few.
Let's go.
All right. Let's go to Jedward. Jedward said, Eric Weinstein's frame of, quote, must versus, quote, should may help here, since Drew's adopting the must go be educated versus Tom's should go be educated. Genetics, for now, are destiny, an unescapable corridor of potential difficult truth.
Yeah. Must versus should it certainly sums up the difference between Drew and I. I won't relitigate. Everybody needs to make their own decisions about which of those is better. But having the mental framework to understand that you have those two different options, I think, is wonderful. Word. No more need be said.
We've got another super chat from David Naylor. David says, education is greater than school. I want my kids to get educated, but I don't like that my son must go to school where he gets in trouble when challenging the social ideologies being imposed by teachers. Teach fact and allow for critical thinking.
Preach. I get it. Yop, yop. But they should be available. That's for sure. But damn, I really think AI is going to change the game.
Skydrifter21 says, ignorance is bliss. The majority of people will always stay trapped in the matrix because reality seems too hard for them when they first see it. The majority don't push beyond that initial encounter.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true on a whole lot of levels. In fact, to the people that want me to talk more about AI, I will say this. Right now, AI is in a state where you really have to work with it, Drew. I was doing the scripting yesterday, and once again, I was having one of those moments where I'm like, Jesus, this is so good. But when I first said, hey, here's what I'm trying to do, it just fucking dropped me a script. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, wait till I tell you to script it. Mm-hmm. But I'm going through the script, and I'm like, no, you're missing this. And as I kept pushing it, so I basically re-prompted it like 3 or 4 times before I started rewriting it. The difference between the output it gave me the first time and after I had re-prompted it was stark. Crazy. And it was so incredible because if you can tell it, this is what's wrong and this is how I want you to fix it, it is unbelievably good at doing that. And also, you have to feed it a ton. But I'd given it all these scripts, like, this is how I talk, find my tone. No, you're missing this. Think about it like this. And it was like, cool, got you, boom. And it did it. And I was like, yo, this is like 85% of the way there. So I'll be interested to see when it's to the point where I'm actually prepared to perform it. But right now, I probably only have like an hour in on it. And I'm like, we're close, man. I might be able to finish it in 4 hours. If I can do these in 4 hours, and have the feeling that I'm having now where this feels like this incredible collaboration, a big unlock for me. Originally, I was pushing chat to don't speak like me because it creates this weird uncanny valley. I want you to feel different than me. But when I go to write, I have to give it new instructions. And I'm like, no. I want you to literally mimic me, do an impression, try to make it so I would be confused that I didn't write that it is exactly how I write or how I talk, because you have samples of both. Yeah. So like now go into full, like I'm doing an impression of Tom Bilyeu. And then I was like, holy bejesus. Now this really sounds like me. It's got phrases that I'm like, okay, here are phrases that I use, incorporate these phrases. Oh, dude, it's so incredible. But you have to know like how you want it to be done, because what I realized in the 4 initial prompts, it was giving me things that were so different that you forget just how many different ways you can do something. And so then you have to have the taste to know, okay, the opening of this one is good, but the rest is terrible. This one is great, but it's got a terrible opening. And so it's like, I want you to combine this idea with this and use this structure, and this is going for YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, it gets really, really good. But you have to be the one with taste. You have to be the one that can identify the problems. You have to be able to say exactly why it's a problem. Now, I will say that you can have a conversation with chat to identify what the problem is. Yeah. So you can say, chat, don't stop trying to script it. Until I say otherwise, I just want to brainstorm with you. I want to figure these things out. And something doesn't feel right to me, but I need to basically talk back and forth with you to figure out what's going on. So you can prompt me, you can ask me questions, but don't try to complete the task. Cool. Got it, Tom. Yep, I'm here. And then you just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you get the thing. I
think you hit it on the head there. Like, I think a lot of times people go into chat, this is my problem, solve it. And then the chat spits out a mediocre answer and they say chat doesn't work, as opposed to like, chat, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Chat gives you options. Yeah, let's drill down on this. I need something like this. Chat gives you options. Okay, I think we got the fundamental problem of the fundamental like way I want the problem to be outlined and solved. Okay, now I should start a new prompt, starting there, and then kind of look at the answer that it gives me, versus trying to kind of backdoor into it. That's something I learned the hard way after going like, I probably did like 40 or 50 chats with Claude one time. And I was just like, I feel like you're not getting this. And then I like summarized it, put it somewhere else and tried it again. And by the second question at that time, it kind of understood it and got me more there. So I think you need to kind of separate your thoughts and then also actually ask it to help you prompt it too. Like, you can say, chat, I don't know how to answer this problem. So that was a good kind of call out at the end.
Yeah. And then another thing that you might need to do, this certainly happens with images, it will get something in its head that isn't stated. So there's nothing for you to change. I don't even know how to address it. Close that window, open a fresh one with whatever, and make sure you save any insights or whatever from that, because once it's gone, it's gone. But I find that opening a new chat, starting fresh, giving it the distilled context from the previous conversation will break it out of like whatever thing it's holding in memory,
whatever loop it's in,
which can cause problems. And the funny thing is, it even knows that it's like, it refers to it as the model. The model can be stubborn. Yes. And I'm like, yes, the model can be very stubborn. Like once it gets an idea in its head, you just can't get it out. It's crazy.
Is that the name that it picked itself, the model?
No.
So close.
No, but if you, God, I don't want to open another attack vector.
Red light.
Do it.
Take your guess.
Alejandro, yes, we did already talk about it. I don't know that we ever closed the loop, Alejandro.
We have one more super chat, by the way.
Let's go.
From Patrick Wrightson.
Man, coming in hot
thank
today.
you.
No
Patrick
joke,
says,
Patrick.
sizable chunk of the chat needs to read more on the philosophy of human freedom and sovereignty. Use of force against non-consenting individuals is fundamentally unethical, regardless of how scary the trade-offs are to the masses.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is people. I don't have a sense of whether I'm like 49% in a group with 49% of the population, or if this is like a really minor position. But people really do seem to like put structure, make people do it. There's a right way to think about the world. It's easy to identify. My whole thesis is it is so hard to identify, that's why you can't force people. You've got to let there be, because I remember the day that I met, it was Peter Attia and Dom D'Agostino, and they came into Quest and they were like, you guys, fat is good. And I was like, fat is good? What do you mean fat is good? And they're like, yeah, like the inflammation problems you're having, go keto. Tell me what happens. I did, and it changed my life. And I was like, whoa. I was like, if fat had been called anything other than fat, if it had been called zargons. So there are carbohydrates, zargons, and proteins. And then, you can get fat, but it wasn't a macronutrient, I think we would have had much less problems. But because it's called a bad thing, you're like, oh, but fat makes you fat. Obviously, if I eat, that's like people that think that by eating cholesterol, that cholesterol appears in their bloodstream. It's not how it works. So anyway, utterly fascinating.
And one more super chat that just popped up here from Andre German. Andre German says, love the show, guys. Keep it up.
Thank you.
$20 for you to do better next time. Put a message in the Challenge Your Thinking Discord channel if you wish to review. In parentheses, not mad, but disappointed.
Interesting.
Much love.
No, please, let's talk about it now.
Oh, I have it pulled up.
Okay, what is it?
He said not mad, but disappointed, and that line hurts my soul.
I know, right?
Damn.
Mom,
I have
really?
it on the Discord. I'm not logged into the Discord on the computer, so I have to read it off of my...
That's fine.
Would you like me to read it?
Do you want to? I would love to share it so Tom can see it, but yes.
Not mad, but disappointed. Oh, here, I'll copy and paste it. That way you could...
Let's go.
That way you could share it on the screen here.
Oh, it pulled up.
Oh, perfect.
Here we go. Can we zoom in? It's too small.
Shall I read it?
Yes, please.
There we go.
Sneaky Tiki, which is the person who just super chatted, they said, I was catching up on the Tuesday Live and was quite disappointed to see Tom about the God allows dead babies emotional manipulation argument. Parentheses, it was bone cancer, but same. From the man who understands that pain is the most information-rich data stream available.
No, I don't.
The man who understands that there are no solutions.
You say failure, I'll give you that.
Only trade-offs. The human creature needs adversity to thrive, and the innovation we love so much is built on the foundation of human suffering. Necessity is the mother of invention.
God,
and the man who understands what complex systems are and that deleting wolves can modify the geology. Yellowstone wolves, cliche, but relevant.
Yeah.
Just seeing a man who gets all of that not be capable of recognizing what the statement, God works in mysterious ways, encapsulates was highly disappointing. Okay. I don't need you to come out one way or another on the existence of God.
I would like
Separate
to.
problem, but that is just a lazy dodge.
No, it's not. Okay, let's see if I can drag you into these waters. And thank you, by the way. First of all, even though I'm about to disagree with you violently, and I think that I see this far more clearly than you do, I am so grateful that you took the time to write that. You did it so sincerely, and I appreciate that very much. And also, by the way, I'm being a little cheeky right now because, of course, I'm always open to being wrong. But you have mischaracterized the very thing that I'm trying to get across the finish line, the very thing that we ran out of time to do. And my wife rightly chastised me. She said, you said you were going to do it for 30 minutes. You did it for 39. Shame on you. I take the L. What I'm saying is I was trying to back Drew into a corner. He has a slightly more sophisticated view, but if I had more time with him, I think I can get him there. When people believe that God is all-knowing and all-powerful, he could have created a system where that kind of pain and suffering isn't fucking necessary. So what I'm saying is that why create that system? And my hypothesis is that that is not a system that's created by a conscious being that you can persuade. It is a system that they create a set of rules, and then whatever happens based on the rules happens. Now, whether this is a blind watchmaker, I think it is a blind watchmaker. I think that once people anthropomorphize whatever the thing is that makes things exist versus not exist, which I literally don't think humans are capable of understanding, once you make it like the flawed fucking DNA creature that are humans, I'm just like, huh? What? Look at the nerve in the neck of a giraffe. It like starts at the heart, goes all the way up around the neck, and then back like to the other side of the heart. It's fucking dumb. And the only answer is it didn't anticipate a fucking neck that long. And so it was just like, well, we've already got this nerve. Oh, it's getting a little bit longer, but that's okay. It's getting a little bit longer, but that's okay. Like there is a never ending parade of evidence of the blind watchmaker, somebody who had no intentionality whatsoever, that it is simply a, call it force, evolutionary pressure, as it is often called, that has yielded these outcomes. And Drew and I were about to go down a path that was nonsensical ultimately for the two of us about sediment layers and things like that, because I certainly don't understand it well enough. I don't think Drew understands it well enough. And so us really having like a big debate there is probably not going to be the play, but that is where the debate has to play out, because the debate I want to drag Drew into is, what does science say? And I think I certainly have an algorithm running in my brain that says I've seen so much evidence for a blind watchmaker that I'm like, okay, if there is a God and anthropomorphizing him is the right way, it's still a rules-based universe. And so then it's like, okay, if it's a rules-based universe, there's no convincing, which if you remember was a big part of the discussion. So anyway, given that this is not now a debate between Drew and I think it is unfair for me to keep going. And as we have not put on the clock another religious debate, I will leave it at that. So while I thank you truly and sincerely, you put yourself out there, you broke it down, and you're probably not at all convinced by what I'm saying. But I hope that now my stance is clearer, that if you have an all-knowing, all-powerful being, they did not need to create this system. And if they did create the system, they created it for a reason. I would very much like to know what that reason is, because it makes them seem fucking evil from where I'm sitting. But if you go, no, it's just a rules-based universe, then I'm like, okay, cool. The outcomes are the outcomes, but it's just the rules. That's what we're up against. And then you get into the, well, if this is rules-based, I should be able to do whatever with those rules that I want, including AIing us into a non-biological future. Period. There we have
it. We have a super chat from Melanie Jenkins. Melanie says,
What's up,
Tom,
Melanie?
Please create a company that can teach me how to learn,
No.
navigate, and use AI.
False. Hard
Question
stop.
mark?
Nope.
Exclamation point?
Nope. But thank you.
Sorry, Melanie.
Who was it the other day? There was someone in my own life. I can't believe I'm blanking on who this was. And they were like, no, people like you really should run for office. And I was like, how dare you? I want to tell stories. What is happening? I want to tell stories, Eunice. All of this is a ruse to tell my stories. That's it. Everything that pulls me away from that makes me sad.
When they say people like
I
you,
won't be launching another company. No. 9.
next time you should
This
just
is
say
it.
derogatory?
This is
Question mark? Because they said people like you. Right? No.
Oh.
Oh, get it? No? Okay.
I don't get it,
Meme?
no.
Nobody gets it. Okay, never mind. Anyway, super chat from Ricky Robbins.
Let's go, Ricky.
Ricky Robbins said, at Tom Bilyeu, I just wanted to say thanks for the zero to launch GPT. It is fire. I'm getting so much utility out of it.
Nice. That's amazing. I am super happy to hear that. I'm assuming you're, did we launch some part of this? We launched as a lead magnet. So if you're referring to the part that's available to anybody, I encourage you guys all to go sign up. If you're actually in our Zero to Founder program, word, and thank you for being a part of it, and very happy to hear that either way you're getting value. That's amazing.
Can you do a quick pitch on your classes? Because somebody asked that earlier in the chat, but it got buried.
Can I do a pitch on what?
The classes, like what is zero to launch? So just to level set people.
Okay, so I am a big believer that the world is about to shatter into 1,000 little pieces, and that most people will not be employed by a large company. Most people will be some variant of a solopreneur. So we offer something called Zero to Founder, somebody that's going to launch their own company. Probably going to be a small company, but you get the idea. And so we've got a bunch of there's mindset in there, because the thing that kills most people is the emotion of it, because it's so hard. We've got a bunch of tactical stuff about how to actually just start a company and launch it. And then we have the program that you can graduate to if your business actually takes off, called $1 Billion CEO. And that is for people that are like, okay, I already have a company, but I want to scale it. You need to be doing at least $1 million in revenue. But if you're doing $1 million in revenue already and you want to scale, then you can join that program. Inside of these programs, there is just pre-recorded curriculum. There is a success team that you will engage with. And then there is live with me. The live with me is much less frequent If you're in Zero to Founder, obviously it's a far, far cheaper program. If you're in the $1 Billion CEO, then weekly, you're going to spend time with me, plus quarterly, I think, if you keep signing up for it. But for every tuition you pay, you get the option to come to LA for a live intimate event with me. Period. So designed to either help you, yes, and Eunice, it's on School. SKOOL.
The links are in the chat.
Which you have the option. You should attend, but you will not be forced. There you have it. That's the pitch.
Nice.
Once again, the links are in the chat if you're interested. If you miss the links, you can also just type in !school and they'll pop up for you
Schmindeed.
at any time during a live.
There's no shower event die switch. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe one day. We'll see.
We have 2 back-to-back super chats from Lyrith.
Let's go, Lyrith.
Lyrith says,
Super chat.
Yeah. Douglas, correct view. Palestine had an election and 18 years after to not throw rockets and incursions and changed charter to not destroy Israel. October 7th happens. Now Hamas must end. Lowest casualty population war ratio in 100 years. And their second super chat is a follow-up that says, Dave Smith, correct view. Ukraine was provoked by NATO encroachment. At the very least, we, quote, gave Russia the exact excuse they said would cross their red line.
Okay, that is very clear. Thank you, man. I want to reread the top one, though. Douglas's correct view is that Palestine had an election. Yep. Chose poorly, in his opinion. And 18 years later, after, to not throw rockets and incursions. Yup. And change charter to not destroy Israel. Yup. October 7th happens. Yeah, October 7th was FAFO all day. All day, man. That's madness from where I'm sitting. Now Hamas must end. Lowest casualty population war ratio in 100 years. Yeah, I certainly buy into all that logic. So I'm with Douglas on that. The part where I think Douglas and I differ is when I look at the history of Israel, what I see, read like the actual conversations that the founders of Israel, the nation state, were having. They're like, let's go around the world. Let's convince people to move here. We get enough people here. We will have economic and political power. We'll be able to form the state because there'll be so many of us. And it's like, let's just say, and Eric, if you've got beef with this, I was thinking about you this morning. I want you to speak up. Eric is Mexican, for everybody wondering why I would say that. We defeated Mexico in a war to get what is now like California, Arizona, parts of New Mexico. And the general's sum, at least one, let me be very as close to accurate as I can, at least one general, and I know other people were saying this, that the way that we did it, because we were such a superior military force at the time, they were like, this is a stain we will never be able to get off of our hands. We went into a weaker country and just said, bitch, we'll take that. And we took it. Now, if Mexico is running a strategy of let's use the open southern border to bring a bunch of people into America, not assimilate, and we're going to take this back as Israel, because everyone's claim is that, hey, the Israelis, this is their ancestral home. I'm in fucking Los Angeles. No one can claim that Los Angeles, it's fucking got a Mexican name, is going to be able to claim that Los Angeles is not the ancestral home of Mexicans. So it's like if they were trying to run a deal where they're like, all right, let's just go in and fucking over time, we're going to outbreed and we're going to import as many people as we can. And we are going to speak Spanish and we are not at all going to assimilate into American culture. I'd have fucking beef. I would have beef. So how can people not be like, yeah, I get why Palestinians are like, you can fuck right off. Yes, this is your ancestral homeland, but you literally ran a strategy that was really effective to create your own state. Okay, so now that backs me into an ethical corner because I have marched on the streets of London saying in Greek a chant, Turkish troops out of Cyprus. Now, I did that to impress my wife and my in-laws because now that I think about it, the honest answer is, kids, you got to move on. It's been 50 fucking years. Either you're going to have to use military force or you just need to move on. And so that's where I'm at with America. It's done. And now you've got to expect Americans to fight back. Israel, Palestine, it's done. They're going to fight back. And so if you fucking invade, fuck around and find out. And they're going to come at you hard. Cyprus, if you invade the north of Cyprus, you can really expect Turkey is going to respond. That's just, I don't know what else to do with that. So I think you're being disingenuous if you don't recognize how America came to be America. I think you're disingenuous if you don't understand how Israel came to be Israel. And I think you're disingenuous if you think people are just going to be like 70 years later, 50 years later, in our case, 250 years later. That's not quite true. Less time for America. That we're not going to be like, yeah, I'm going to fight back. So that's the messy reality that we live in. Okay. Give me the most hateful response to that from chat. Who's mad? Because there's no way people are like, yeah, word.
I just had one too.
Not
lost it.
Possible.
October 7th was horrific, but decades of oppression, blockade, and displacement have pushed people to the edge. No people can be crushed forever and stay silent.
Yeah, I agree. Here's the thing. Were they? That is the question I do not know enough about to answer. When you talk to Douglas Murray, it is they were given billions of dollars in aid and they built terror tunnels, and they themselves said, we're not going to let the civilians hide here. These are for our fighters. Okay, well, then you get the result that you get. That is not me saying that's as it should be. That is me saying that is what's going to happen. That is the most predictable response ever of all time. So take Russia. Hey, we've been provoked. And so we're going to come in. Yeah. And they're going to shoot you in the face for doing so. I'm having a hard time tracking what people think is going to happen. Now, if we want to talk about what ought to happen gets complicated very fast, but I will certainly give you my answer. What ought to happen is the Israelis clearly need a state. They did it it's a gangster way, man. Fuck, this is so complex. If I were doing it, I would do what they did. And so if, let's just say, China comes in, Holocaust, all Americans being killed, chased to the ends of the earth, I'm going to find a place that we can go. If oh God, this is going to fractal so fast. This will be a much more constructive conversation if I am asked very specific questions so I can not run down an ever fractaling tree, because you're running into value systems, you're running into beliefs that are so interconnected. So let us take one thing at a time. Drew, this is your role. Help me parse all this.
Yeah, I need to pivot slightly.
Okay.
Because I think this is interesting, but I feel like chat is building up their argument. So we're going to come back to you real quick. But Brutus had a question that flew by that I kind of wanted to see your answer to.
Okay.
He says, why don't you have you can't solve the problem by throwing more money at it attitude with Trump's $1 trillion for the Pentagon? They failed every audit. And that is interesting. I think we were at 850 last year. We added an additional 150 billion to get us to 1 trillion total. I think he's saying this in the same parallel as Department of Education. We didn't want to throw more money there. That was the previous argument.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
So it goes like this. Throwing more money at it isn't going to solve the problem unless you make it a more efficient system. I will tell you, without voting on whether the $1 trillion is the right answer, you are being outproduced on a military basis by China on some ungodly amount, not from a dollar perspective, from a what they make perspective. So the only thing I'm taking a stance on is that you must ramp up your ability to manufacture weapons by a lot. That is the only thing I'm going to bat for. Now, do I think that the Trump administration is better at spending money well? They certainly seem to be. my base assumption is capital allocators, this is exactly what they're good at. You have the greatest capital allocator literally ever right now running Doge. So I don't think that there is a better person to put in charge of that. So I'm not saying that it's being done perfectly, but I am saying you're about as close as you're going to get. There's still political shenanigans and all that stuff, but they're at least on the right track. As the Greeks say, segolodromo, you're on the right path.
Say it one more time.
Segolodromo. That's, you can't imagine how bad my accent is. So a real Greek person right now is going, what the fuck is he saying? So yeah, keep that in mind. All right, red light.
That was an accident.
Oh,
red light. We did miss a super chat from earlier. Ricardo shouted it out.
Let's go.
It was
Thank
not
you,
above the
Ricardo.
threshold.
It wasn't above the threshold, but he wanted it to say, and we're about to wrap up, so I'll give it to you, Ricardo. This is consider this.
Damn, wait, we're gonna drop that nuclear bomb of commentary about Gaza and Palestine and then peace the fuck out?
Hey man, people are not touching the Middle East. That's why I'm trying to read these other questions.
So wait, is chat like I don't want to talk about it?
It's just Israel shill. It's the
me. I'm an Israel shill.
No, it's people are arguing amongst themselves. They're just throwing insults. Nobody's saying. But the problem is A, B, C, D, and E. Or
does anybody argue with my setup? No, says Eunice. Eunice is shaking her head.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We do have a red light now.
All right, Audrey German. Let's go. Andre, sorry. Andre? Probably Andre.
Let us know. They said, thanks for clarifying. I misunderstood. I'm closer to you IRL. God equals evolution-ish. But my understanding is Garden of Eden was the utopia attempt, but free will is the trade. Basically, Matrix Architect convo. Sorry for derail.
No, man, not at all. This is exactly the glory of a community. And by the way, what a gangster response.
That's a great way.
You just won me over. I love people that can disagree and be chill about it. So, my man, you certainly earn community points. I'll say one last thing about the Garden of Eden. To me, that is just pure metaphor.
If the Bible is a metaphor, I look at it as an Aesop fable. Like, there wasn't really a turtle and a hare running. Mm-hmm. They didn't actually race. But the takeaway from that story is that, like, meticulous planning and having a goal and working toward that goal on a steady, consistent pace is better than erratically jumping up and down and bouncing around. We can kind of extract the message from it without having to believe the story. The pushback I get when I say the Bible is a metaphor is once I say the Bible is a metaphor, it then becomes, oh, then I don't need to listen to it. I get to just be a good person. And they throw the rest of it away. So while, yes, Jesus himself didn't talk in facts, I think just like he always talked in parables, I do think there is some metaphor nature to the Bible itself. But I think with every software update, and I love how Andrew just put it, it's kind of like that was their first attempt. And now I'm calling them software updates because I feel like Jesus, God tried this way, it didn't work. Okay, you can't live in perfection, but I'll help you every now and then. That didn't work. Okay, you can't do it. So it's like that same type of update. I think that's where there is things that you can learn from it. There is things that you can pull from it. There are actual rules and structure that can help. That's rules for the universe. But people get too caught up in did he say this at this time, with these people? And then it loses its utility. So then you start arguing about how the metaphor is delivered instead of the message in it of itself. When nobody cares, nobody's actually arguing, well, a turtle never raced a hare, so I don't need to, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have that level of discourse.
Yeah. Religion trips a different circuit in the brain. Religion offers you the world's best self-help books coupled with an omniscient, all-powerful being in the sky says you must do this or you will face, in the Christian case, eternal damnation. So it's basically giving you the ultimate authority of why not only is it good for you, like there's the you must do it aspect. And when you remove that, as Nietzsche very aptly pointed out, there are deranging consequences. So when you have a creature that has the architecture for religiosity in its brain and you don't give it religiosity, then it starts filling that with something else. And it tends to be ideology that is not as time-tested as the religions. So I get the value of religions. It's just that it has low predictive validity from this is true and accurate standpoint. But the advice is bangery.
Prism Films. Tom, you said you can make a way better universe than this shitty one. How would you build the base atomic structure of this reality? Questions I need answers, Prism. Questions that need answers.
I love that so much. Oh God, I can so picture the attitude with which he wrote that. Prism, you're fun. Okay, so what he's referencing for anybody that wasn't here yesterday was me saying that I could come up with not a better universe. I could come up with a better design for humans, and that I had written in a screenplay a line that said, you've got to be kidding that this place is created by an all-powerful, all-knowing being. If there was a God, the vagina would open painlessly like a car trunk when you needed to give birth. And that definitely sums up my position. But I don't understand the subatomic particles. I would not be able to make a better universe. I will just tell you that right now. I am desperately attempting to actually make a simulated universe. But even there, I'm riding on the back of Unreal Engine. So I don't want to have to get into the nitty gritty of how all that stuff works. So yeah, I would not take too literally what the joke is meant to highlight, which is anybody that thinks that this is perfect design. That seems crazy to me. That seems crazy. But the joke stands as a joke merely meant to highlight that. Not that I actually think I can build a better universe than this piece of shit. This universe is amazing.
Ricardo, are rights like voting given to us, or are they earned? Can they be taken away? And if people grow up with different educations and beliefs, what holds a society together?
Well, obviously anything can be taken away. So you're now an is versus ought. Morality is a luxury belief, but thank God we have that luxury. But let me tell you, when you are being chased by lions, it's kill or be killed, baby. It's kill or be killed.
We got another super chat.
Let's go. What time do we have to wrap, by the way?
10 minutes. We got 10 minutes, chat.
Let's do it.
Lyrith says, wrong. God gives us 100% free will of choice to follow his word. The fact that we can all choose not to proves that, and it is a choice in all cases in the Bible. He does not force himself on us. So no, that isn't how it works.
I wish I knew which part he was referencing. Okay, so free will as a principle in the Bible, sure. My question then becomes, what happens when I can show you that free will doesn't exist? Then what? And you need only read the book. If you think I'm out of my mind, just read the book Determined by Robert Sapolsky. And then if you read that and you're like, let me show you where he's gotten the studies wrong and all that stuff, cool. But it just seems so obvious to me that free will is not real. And one should act as if they have free will. There's no other way to play the game. But free will seems to be provably an illusion. From where I'm sitting, free will is provably an illusion. But do with that what you will. I don't want to beat people into thinking like that. I want people to realize, hey, you should act as if you have free will. It's way more fun. It's way more fun.
A follow-up super chat from Lyrith just now saying, infinity is the thing that exists. Existence itself is infinite and eternal. If not, there is nothing and no causality. Free will is the only thing. Determinism, I read it. It falls apart in all... IoT? What is that, IoT? It falls apart in all cases. I will prove it to you.
Okay. Free will is the only thing. Determinism, I read it. Maybe as I read it. Yeah, look, if he can give me a way that has higher predictability, I'm all for it. So free will is one of those things I don't spend a lot of time thinking about, to be honest. Like I act as if I have free will. That's it. And it seems, again, patently self-evident that it doesn't exist. But it also seems patently self-evident that to act as if it doesn't exist will not take you anywhere good. So yeah, I'm perfectly happy to have the debate as it interests some people a lot. It doesn't interest me very much just because now what? What are you going to do? But when we get into conversations about God, free will used as an example, that's when you'll see me bring it up. But other than that, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as very useful.
Lyrith is saying that it's I read it falls apart in all cases. I will prove it to you. Past tense.
Thelio Savage said Lyrith is going to set a new record for the most expensive debate. Remember we was going
God
Super Chat for
bless
Super
Lyrith.
Chat with the other guy?
Lyrith is going to prove that he supports this live.
Lyrith, friend of the show,
more than
man. We missed you
anybody
the
else.
other day too. We were like, where's Lyrith?
Where's Lyrith?
We're here today.
We noticed your presence was not.
We notice all you guys.
Yeah.
We have our favorites. I'll be honest.
Damn.
You know,
Damn.
some of you
You're
guys
coming in like
some of you guys I
that.
don't like. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I
I don't
love
like
you
you
all
guys.
equally. I love you all equally.
I'm joking.
Don't let
I'm
Drew
joking. I'm joking.
tear you down.
It's always fun, and it's Friday. This is our last one of the week, guys.
Esoteric dichotomy. I define free will as the ability to do whatever you want without being limited by your biology. And that becomes real easy to prove that you cannot.
Oh, you're saying that's how you define the fact that we don't
He
have
said, how do you define free will? The ability to do whatever you want, regardless of your biology.
Copy.
Because once you say, well, obviously, like we're stuck in our biology, then I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, that's why you don't have free will. You are stuck in whatever roll of the dice you got with your biology. So you don't have free will.
Cool.
She was like, I'm not going back there again.
Cool.
There it is, everybody. All right. So unless chat has something pressing that they want to talk about, I think we say goodbye. Wish everybody a very, very happy weekend. And I feel like we should, when we have time, have a longer conversation about Israel-Palestine. It's like the fucking thing everybody goes nuts about. And so I really want to talk about it. It is the third rail that I want to dry hump until I really feel that somebody can get me to see something that I don't see, or that I'm like, no, I got this one mapped pretty well. So we'll see. All right. You guys are amazing. Stay stuck in the false dichotomy of free will and biological determination if you want. They don't contradict. I am not persuaded by that statement. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Really appreciate you guys spending time with us. And we will see you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful time. Peace.